population of the two for the Tidewater region. Chesapeake had a very high peak of the minimum infection rate in week 34, but that was because they tested very few mosquitoes that week and they had one positive. These horse symbols show where in the point along this progression equine cases occurred with the triple E infection rates seen in the local mosquitoes. And as usual, I'm always a little bit mystified about what causes horse cases. We have a lot of horse cases in years when there aren't a whole lot of triple E cases, and in periods when there don't seem to be a lot of triple E cases, but or triple E positive mosquitoes. But the Suffolk cases all happened in early to mid-July. The Chesapeake case happened in near mid-August, and the Accomack case was late in the year. And they do coincide to a certain degree with peaks in the MIR in the areas surveyed, either shortly following those peaks or right under those peaks. In assessing the potential for human and equine triple E cases in 2020, there was a total of 141,643 Culex melanura that were tested for triple E in 2020, but only 24 triple E positive pools were detected for an overall seasonal triple E MIR and Culex melanura of 0.169. That's the lowest seasonal MIR we've seen for that in a long time. Although there were 5 equine cases in triple E in 2020, no human cases were identified. And in comparison, 2016 had a 6-fold higher overall season MIR of 1.009 for triple E and Culex melanura, with 90 triple E positive pools out of 89,000 tested. But in spite of this much higher triple E MIR seen in 2016, there were just 7 triple E positive equines counted that year, and no human cases were seen in that year. Now I'm going to talk about detection of West Nile virus transmission in Virginia in 2020. This map shows where West Nile virus cases occurred in Virginia. I'm not West Nile virus cases, but West Nile virus positive pools. Mosquito testing for West Nile virus is mostly limited to the most heavily urban, suburban regions of Northern Virginia, the Richmond City area, and the Tidewater area. Culex pipiens restuans mosquitoes are the primary enzootic vectors of West Nile virus and human vectors of West Nile virus, and are most common in tree-lined suburban or urban areas where underground storm sewer systems and other container breeding habitats are common, and there are plenty of birds. You need those tree-lined streets for the birds. This graph shows testing of Culex pipiens restuans pools for West Nile virus by PCR in 2020 by Prince William County and the combined Fairfax County Health District jurisdictions, which include Fairfax County, Fairfax City, and Falls Church in Northern Virginia. There was a single human case infection recorded in Virginia, and that was in the Richmond area, in Richmond, Virginia, recorded on week 28. And that was before any positive mosquitoes had been detected. There was one positive mosquito pool detected in Henrico County, but that happened later in the season. And that was detected by a ramp test. The peaks for the minimum infection rate in Prince William are much higher than the peaks for minimum infection rate in Fairfax County. But the high peak in Fairfax County of MIR does coincide somewhat with the human West Nile virus positive blood donor in Loudoun County, Virginia. This graph shows the testing of Culex pipiens restrans pools for West Nile virus by VEC test in the Tidewater region and by ramp test in Henrico County. And positive pool by Henrico. And it was a rather small pool, so the infection rate, the minimum infection rate counted there was quite high. There were no other positive mosquito pools detected in Henrico County. The other jurisdictions where there were positive pools included Chesapeake, Norfolk, Suffolk, and York County. Hampton and Virginia Beach did not have any positive pools. And the solid yellow line shows the total MIR, if you count the total number of mosquitoes tested in each week and the total number of positive pools. And of course, total MIRs are usually typically lower than MIRs based on a 1 week in a particular jurisdiction, because those single pools that come up positive are based on much fewer mosquitoes counted per positive. I'm sorry I don't have anything more to present. I've been fighting with a corrupted Excel sheet, this Excel program for the last 3-4 weeks, and it's been very tough to analyze the data, but I'd be happy to answer any questions you have at this point.
If anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute your mic and ask Dr. Gaines.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
This is Randy from Henrico.
Yeah, Randy.
We had a citizen that called us in December and said that her coworker had been diagnosed with West Nile virus in, I think it was, gosh, in November or something like that. I never saw that on any health department related stuff, and this was over from over around the Dumbarton area, where we originally had a 2003 human case. Mm-hmm. Have you seen any data on that individual with late reporting?
No, we haven't. The only data we have for a human West Nile virus case was that case from Northern Virginia. Now, there has been an issue with local epidemiologists all across the state being very tied up with COVID-19 investigations, and so somebody may have had that case reported to them and never put it in the system. I'm not really sure what happened, but we have tried to go through all our surveillance, all our case surveillance by jurisdiction, looking for human cases, and all we found were the two that I have noted: the West Nile virus positive infected human in Northern Virginia from a blood donation, and the one in Henrico County. That's the only
one in Richmond. Yeah, and we understand the complexity of the COVID stuff, and also that this was a report from a citizen or a coworker. So, you know, and our point is that unless we hear from the health department, we don't consider it a human case. And then we don't deal with humans. We deal with bugs. Anyway, thanks, Dave.
Well, if we could get back, if we could find out who that reporter was of the case, maybe we could have a local epidemiologist investigate it and see if we have lab data. We don't always get lab positive data, but that's one of the ways we often find cases. We search lab data for West Nile virus positives, and when we find a positive, then we figure out from the lab where that positive came from and talk to the local hospital or healthcare provider to find out more about the case. But if we could find out a little bit more about that reported case, we'd certainly like to know about it, because it might enable us to you know, go back through the records and see if we can find something in the lab data mart on that.
All right, David, I'll reach out to you after we get through the meeting and stuff, and share some private information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Gaines. Thanks for the question, Randy. Any other questions? If not, I'm going to move on. I just want to possibly just go through the just a VMCA slideshow so that we all can kind of get through that. We have some extra time here. Let me. I'm hoping that you all can see this. In 2021, we were all going to go this year to the Newport News Marriott for our 74th year of existence, but that did not happen because of COVID, and it actually has been now rescheduled for January 2022 in Newport News at the Marriott, and that'll be our 75th year. So hopefully we can all gather and everybody can be there, and we can all have a normal meeting and we can see each other's faces, and I won't be talking to a camera. Let's see. The 46th annual virtual MAMCA meeting is February 17th to 18th. Don't know if anybody is going to go. It's virtual, so we should all take advantage of seeing what's going on in the Mid-Atlantic region and up and down the East Coast. That's something we're all very interested in. The AMCA is now virtual this year as well. It's March 2 to 5, 2021. This is going to be really interesting, and it's available virtual, and it's available at a cheaper price because it's virtual. You don't have to include all the costs of going, getting a flight, having a hotel stay. So if I don't know if your jurisdictions are going to allow you guys to maybe attend this. There are some really interesting topics that you can choose from. There's multiple rooms that are going on throughout the meeting, so you can choose from those particular rooms. So definitely recommend trying to go if you can, guys. Again, in 2022, AMCA is going to be in Jacksonville, Florida. Hopefully it's normal and we can all meet, and it actually happens there. So I've never been to Jacksonville, Florida, but it should be very interesting. VMCA is always selling merchandise. You can pick up the items in Norfolk. You can submit your order forms to Penny. We have face masks available this year. So inquire with Penny and see how you can place your order. One of our vendors, Bayer, here are our list of vendors and sustaining members. They help us and are still helping us now through these times, and I'm sure they have all of your needs for pesticides and equipment. So reach out to our various sustaining members for more information. Of course, the sustaining members will be doing their 5-minute PowerPoint presentations throughout these 2 days, Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you have any questions for them, you could probably ask them at that time too. Again, another plug for our merchandise, other items that you can inquire for. Submit your orders to Penny. Jeff O'Neill, the clown of the bunch. You need to reach out to him. That's his information. This is our TMVCC, our Tidewater Mosquito and Vector Control Council. Right now, Ann Herring is our president. Vice president is Luz Grant. And if you're interested in being the secretary, please contact Ann or Luz at that information down at the bottom. Here is the information for Viserys. I think John Singletary, I think Univar turned into Viserys. I'm not sure. I know that they are now a new company, but John Singletary and Jason Conrad is our sustaining members for Viserys. Thanks to the 2020 VMCA Executive Board. Very trying year. Andy's been held up because of COVID. We've got all of these other members now. President-elect Tim Dubois coming through. And we got everybody there, guys. Y'all know us. Hopefully you can see us in person sometime soon. If you're interested in volunteering for the executive board, they want to be a committee member or whatnot, there should be some forms and whatnot that you can fill out and send to the appropriate person. This is the information for Steve Molnar and with Target Specialty Products. Check out the VMCA website, guys. You can be involved with all of these things. Hello. There's Andy to the left, spray painting some trash cans for the West Nile virus story video, and our website. And Karen Akaratovic does a great job handling our website and putting new information up there. So there's content all the time. So information about Maris from Clark. Jeff Hottenstein is your Jeff Hottenstein is the vendor for Clark. Here is the plug for the 47th Mid-Atlantic Mosquito Control Association, February 2022. Right now, just going through some of the slides for the presidential slides. We have plenty of time. Our next is at 9:10, which would be Karen Akaratovic. So I just want to go ahead and go through some of these slides because we may not have time to actually go through them all. So if anybody's been interested in the walls, the wide area larviciding projects that have been going on, please contact Jim Andrews with Baylor Biosciences. Here's a plug for the Tour de Skier 2021. Already got the information there. If you're interested, please contact Jay Kiser. He is the chair of the student competition committee who puts the Tour de Skier on. and also the secretary for VMCA. So thank you for everyone that has been involved with the Tour de Skeeter for the past 2 years. This is the Adapco team. Everyone knows Ted Bean, and these are 2 associates. And last but not least, here is the Let's Get Social virtual book club and the venture club that if you're interested, please email Jay Kiser. And on with the show, we have next Karen Akaratovic, who is the City of Suffolk's biologist, one of the biologists for City of Suffolk, and she will be presenting on the Culex. Keep coming. Quick question, guys. Are you hearing Karen?
Now I am.
You're hearing me.
No, can you start it over? Can
Yeah,
you
I
back
can-
it up and start it over and turn up the volume?
Okay, so everyone will have to turn up the volume on their own personal computer in order to hear the presentation. Because it's coming through your computer speakers. If it is low, this is a pre-recorded presentation. I'm playing a video on it, so I have my video and my volume all the way up. Please turn up your speakers so that you can hear the presentation. How is that going?
I still can't hear anything.
Still no sound on our end.
Yeah?
Yeah, I can't hear it. Let me try to play it on my side.
Okay. So Karen, if you're gonna try to play it, I have to share your screen. Okay?
Okay, that works.
Okay. So let me find you in the list of people here. So now you're the presenter. And if you could just go ahead and share your screen.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. If it doesn't work, then I'll just go through the slides, but hopefully this works.
Okay. It's not working. It's very low.
Still not working?
Yeah, it's really
Okay. I have kids in the background, so bear with me, guys, if that pops through.
Yeah, we have plenty of time right now. We're still ahead of schedule.
Right. Can you take back the controls for a second so I can find my Google Slides?
Yes.
Okay. I think we should be good to go.
Okay. I'm going to make you presenter here. You should be able to share your screen now.
Okay. Is it coming through now?
It is.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that, guys. I was really hoping that the recording thing would work because I have two very small children that are running around in the background. So I apologize if you hear some screams. So like Charles said, my name is Akaratovic, and I'm a biologist for the City of Suffolk Mosquito Control. And today I am going to talk to you about the Culex that just keep coming. So this will just be a very quick, short and sweet reminder about the two newest species that we have here in the state of Virginia. So Culex nigripalpus on the left and Culex coronator over here on the right. Culex coronator was first found in the state right here in Suffolk in November of 2016. We found a female, and then we didn't find any for 3 years after that. But really exciting, we found one more this past November. So it was really cool to see that pop back up again. The first specimen that we found in 2016 was in a far southwestern site of our city, and it's interesting to note it's the same site as our first Culex nigripalpus specimen, or one of our first Culex nigripalpus specimens. And then the second specimen that we found this past November was several miles to the northeast in our downtown area. So kind of cool to see it so far apart. And you can see that spread on the map here. So 2016 collection site is down here in this Holland community, which is kind of like a suburban outpost surrounded by a lot of agricultural land. And then our northeastern site in 2020 is kind of a similar habitat. There's like some suburban neighborhoods, and then it's right next to the Great Dismal Swamp, so a lot of wooded habitat. And then with Culex nigripalpus, this was first discovered in the state, also in Suffolk, and we found these guys in 2017. We found 4 females in October and 1 in December, so that was pretty cool to see. Can you guys see this, like me moving around my chat bar and stuff? Is it blocking the screen? Hopefully not. Okay, so we didn't find any in 2018, but then we found 2 in 2019, 1 in May and 1 in October, both females again. And then we found 4 this past November. So that was really cool to see them continuously finding them, that they're not just this, you know, a one-time thing, but they were found at sites all over the city, ranging from very close to the North Carolina border all the way up to the northwestern tip. And you can see that on the map here. So southwestern corner, this is the same site as our coronator. And then down there at the bottom is the site that's closest to the North Carolina border. And then up here, these guys are really close to our border with Carrollton, which is right over this bridge. And then the northeastern site is very close to our borders with Portsmouth and Chesapeake. So it would be really cool to see if Portsmouth, Chesapeake, if you guys end up finding these guys too. So some key characters to look out for if you're trying to spot these in your traps Coordinator will be really easy to spot. They're one of only 2 Culex that we have in the state with banded legs. So there's a full body picture of those. And then this picture, you can see a lot better the legs. So they'll have apical and basal banding. So banding that crosses the joints. And then the proboscis will have this ventral pale patch, so not a band, just on the underside. With tarsalis, you'll see an actual band. It'll go all the way around, dorsal and ventral. But with coordinator, you're just going to see it on the underside. And then the palps, it's not really the greatest pictures to see the palps. I didn't really get a close-up of the palps, but they're all dark. With tarsalis, you'll see some speckling of light scales, but with coordinator, it'll be all dark. Also, the wings, costal and subcostal, so the top 2, I guess that bar is getting in the way. The top 2 wing veins are going to be all dark. And then for nigripalpus, they look very similar to salinarius, especially when you have a lot of them in a trap. They can also look very similar to pipiens, restruans, and quinks, but the big character to look out for that will give them away is the mesopimeron, which is this rectangular plate here on the side of their thorax. It will not have a patch in the middle here of pale scales. It'll just be really smooth and void of scales, but you will see that pale patch on all the other specimens, all the other species I have listed. And then they are grouped with Sallies because they have this basal patch of dark scales here on the midlobe of their scutellum. So you can at least eliminate pipiens, restruans, and quinks with the dark scales that you'll see here. And then their abdominal segment 7 is mostly dark, whereas with Sallies, you'll see a lot of copper scales here. So when you see this, you might think, okay, it's not a Sallies, maybe it's a pip, rest, quink. But if you look closer on the sides, the lateral sections of their abdominal turga, you'll see these triangular patches of pale scales. And then another characteristic that's not going to appear in your ID book is the side of their thorax is really glossy. And we know this from experience and also from talking to the late Dr. Harrison. He used to say that it looked like a waxed car, and it's true from what we've seen. It looks very smooth and shiny. It almost looks devoid of scales. I mean, you'll see the like seedy, the longer hairs, but in terms of scales, they look pretty well cleaned off. So keep your eyes open, Virginia. Like I said, coordinator will be really easy to spot if you see them. You'll see this blunt abdomen, you know, Culex in your trap with banded legs, and you'll freak out and take a closer look. And if you just pay attention to that proboscis and look for the underside, not a band, then you'll be able to separate them pretty easily. Nigripalpus, like I said, they blend in a lot more. But if you're looking closely and you're looking at that mesopimeron on both sides and it's not there, you don't see any holes where the, you know, it might have just been rubbed off, and then you look for those lateral triangle patches of pale scales, hopefully you'll find one. So that's all I have for you guys. I'd be super interested to hear if anyone finds one of these 2. It would be really cool to see it expanding their range to the north. Please reach out to me if you have any questions, or if you think that you have found one. I would be super excited to hear about it. So yeah, if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
If anybody has any questions, go ahead and unmute yourself and ask away. My comment is it's not only Karen that's interested, Suffolk is interested. I know Jay is interested as well. So if you have any information, you can reach out to any of us in Suffolk and we will pass the word gladly.
Very cool stuff. Thank you.
So I don't have a question, but I have, I guess, a comment. Anybody from North Carolina that could kind of jump in. Curious, you know, we're seeing these mosquitoes coming into Suffolk with coordinator, that big chunk of years not being seen. I'm curious if these populations in North Carolina have been really high during those years. I know that first year they were they were pretty high. I'm curious what happened in 2020 in North Carolina.
If anybody can comment on that, that would be interesting. Otherwise, I will move on. Next, we have Christine Espada with the ODU tick team with the update for 2020.
Okay, is that visible to everybody? I had some trouble yesterday, so.
It's coming through well on my end, Christina.
Okay, great. Let's see, can I collapse this? Oh, you guys can't see that on the right?
No, you can't. So you can collapse away.
Okay, great, thanks. All right. Hi, my name's Christina Espada, and I am a PhD student in Holly Gaff's Tick Lab at ODU. Today, I'm going to talk to you about what we've been up to in 2020, collecting ticks in a pandemic. So the objective of the ODU tick team is to conduct a long-term study of tick ecology and tick-borne pathogens in the Hampton Roads area since 2009. We go out, we collect ticks from the field, and we use that information to determine populations of ticks in Hampton Roads and the pathogens that they carry. And then that data is then used by Holly and some other talented grad students to do some mathematical modeling to determine high-risk areas and best control methods. I'm going to start off with some tick basics for anyone who may not be familiar. Ticks are acarids, meaning they're related to mites and spiders. They have a punctuated life history where they go through discrete life stages. So they'll start out as eggs, and then the larvae will hatch and quest for a host. Typically, it's something smaller, and they will take a blood meal, fall off of the host, and molt into the next life stage, the nymph. The nymph will then quest for a host, take a blood meal, fall off, and molt into the final life stage, the adult. Adults will quest for a host, and this is typically something larger than what they fed on in their previous life stages. And then the females will fall off and lay eggs, starting the cycle over again. Ticks have one blood meal per life stage and are host specific at each life stage. However, they will feed on most vertebrates. And ticks are hardy and widespread, and a testament to that fact is that they can survive off host for months to years between meals. These are some of the tick collection methods that we are using currently in the lab. Our primary method of tick collection is regular flagging of the vegetation for ticks, but we also pair this with other collection methods. So we do a lot of small mammal live trapping in the lab. We go to hunt check stations. We do what we call serendipitous roadkill sampling. If we just happen to come upon something on the side of the road and it's safe to stop, we will check it for ticks. We also get a lot of ticks from donations, so wildlife rehab centers, veterinary clinics, and human volunteers. In fact, many of our ticks that come from human volunteers are from VMCA members, so thank you guys. This map shows collection sites that we went to regularly in 2020. As you can see, we have a lot of regular sites, and we have even expanded north to Tappahannock and south to Knott's Island for Gulf Coast tick collection. We flag a large number of sites to ensure that we sample a variety of habitats and collect all tick species in the area. Unfortunately, our collection effort was modified for COVID this year. We had a reduced lab capacity. We were not allowed to have any undergraduate researchers to help us, and sampling was done by individuals rather than pairs, which is what we normally do. We only sampled monthly in 2020, with the exception for sites with Gulf Coast tick populations, which were sampled twice per month in the summer. We were able to continue our small mammal sampling, trapping monthly, with a pandemic-related hiatus in March and April. The vast majority of ticks collected were, as always, Lone Star ticks. However, the number and density of Lone Star ticks was the lowest of any previous year, even when accounting for the change in effort. It's unclear if this reflects changes in host communities or tick densities. So it's possible that maybe there were a lot of suitable hosts at a site and the ticks got to them before they got to our flags. But of course, it's also possible that there were just less Lone Stars this year. Many sites had significant flooding from hurricanes and nor'easters in the past 3 years, and it's possible that that contributed to our lower numbers. And we collected very few rabbit ticks, but all other species were collected in numbers similar to previous years. This graph shows the total number of ticks collected from 2009 to 2020. The dominant color you see here, the blue, represents Lone Star ticks, while all other tick species are represented by these little colorful bars that you see at the top. As you can see, the majority of what we collect every year are Lone Star ticks, which is true for this year as well. But you can see that we collected a lot fewer in this year when compared with the previous years. So for the next couple of slides, I just wanted to show you the changes in Lone Star numbers in particular, and this year compared to previous years for each of their life stages. For each of these upcoming graphs, the y-axis is going to be your average density, and the x-axis is the month average from 2010 to 2020. The orange bars are going to be the overall average, and the blue dots are going to be your values for 2020. This graph is for Lone Star adults, and for every month that we normally collect Lone Stars, the blue dots this year show that we collected much fewer adults than the average for the previous decade. This graph is for Lone Star nymphs. The nymphs follow a similar pattern to the adults. For every month we normally collect nymphs, the numbers for this year were quite a bit less than our average numbers, with the exception of October. And finally, this graph is going to be for your Lone Star larvae. The larvae follow a similar pattern to the adults and nymphs, except they come up a little bit later, starting in July normally, versus March for the other life stages. But this year we really didn't see them until August. And again, for every month we collect larvae, the numbers for this year were quite a bit less than our average, again, with the exception of October. So now we're going to get into my favorite topic when it comes to ticks, our Gulf Coast Tick Project. Holly has this grant where she's trying to answer all questions Gulf Coast tick related, and each grad student has a different role to play in that. I'm going to start with our Eastern Virginia sweep that we did this year. We went to all sites where we previously collected Gulf Coast ticks, and we also went to some new sites that looked promising. Out of our previous sites, we found 11 Gulf Coast ticks on Smith Island and 1 Gulf Coast tick each at Brownsville Preserve and Mutton Hunk Fen Natural Area Preserve. Our new sites seem to be more promising, with 26 Gulf Coast ticks at Sandy Bottom Nature Preserve and 14 at Surrey County Hog Island. No Gulf Coast ticks were found at the other sites we sampled. So Gulf Coast ticks are a known vector of Rickettsia parkeri, the causative agent of Rickettsia parkeri rickettsiosis. This illness is similar to, but milder than, the related and more infamous Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Gulf Coast ticks are undergoing a range expansion from their historic range along the Gulf Coast, establishing in Virginia in 2010. And these ticks have a higher Rickettsia parkeri prevalence on these edges of their range expansion. For example, ticks in Virginia have had a prevalence of about 60% versus 11 to 30% in other regions of the United States. Gulf Coast ticks are found in these frequently disturbed secondary successional habitat. These populations are ephemeral, so what we see is without disturbance, they will disappear in about 5 years as the canopy closes. And finally, the predominant hosts of the species are relatively unknown. So we don't know why the prevalence is higher on these range expansion edges, what hosts they are hitchhiking on to get here, what hosts they need to persist in their habitat patches, or what about the progress of succession makes them disappear from a habitat. And my work is trying to contribute to our understanding of these questions, mainly through host sampling work. So one of my main projects is small mammal trapping to try to identify potential hosts for immature Gulf Coast ticks and what small mammal, if any, is contributing to the high prevalence of Rickettsia parkeri we see in our ticks. And we've had a little bit of success in this area. In southeastern Virginia, small mammals seem to be the predominant host for immature Gulf Coast ticks. Preliminary studies have identified the marsh rice rat and hispid cotton rat as potential reservoir or amplifying hosts for Rickettsia parkeri. And this is because we've collected Rickettsia parkeri infected ticks and tissues from rice rats and infected ticks from cotton rats. Another project I'm working on is trying to identify hosts of adult Gulf Coast ticks. So these larger hosts are likely bringing ticks to their habitat patches. They're probably the reason that the ticks are undergoing their range expansion, or at least contributing to their range expansion, versus the small mammals, which are likely only contributing to the persistence of the ticks in an area. So my plan is to trap larger hosts. I was supposed to do that this year, but COVID put a wrench in that. So right now I'm using non-invasive methods to try to identify a potential host species to target. So I use some of the collection methods mentioned previously, the roadkill, convenience sampling, hunt checks, donations from wildlife rehabbers. But I also have trail cameras set up in adjacent habitats. So areas where we collect Gulf Coast ticks right next to areas where we don't. And I see if there are differences and what potential host species we could target for trapping. Most of what I've caught on camera have been white-tailed deer, and they are followed in number by raccoons. But I do get quite a diversity of species on my cameras, which is exciting for me when I'm clicking through pictures. So you can see here I've got white-tailed deer, there's a little raccoon tail, but I also get foxes and possums and bobcats and coyotes. So we still have some work to do to try to narrow things down. But yeah, we'll see if we make any progress. Okay, and finally, because Gulf Coast ticks disappear from their habitat and they're hard to find, we like to put a little challenge out every year to help us find more ticks and more field sites. So once again, Holly has put the offer out there for the first person who finds a Gulf Coast tick in your district. We will give you a free ODU Tick Team t-shirt if you're interested. Even if you're not the first person or you don't want a t-shirt, we would love to have your ticks if you're willing to share them. I have 2 lovely pictures here for what you'll be looking for, but any and all ticks are of course appreciated. I would of course like to thank Holly Gaff for being a fantastic advisor, but everyone listed here has been a huge help, both with the physical labor. Doing this field work would be nearly impossible alone, and with the exchange of ideas. This wouldn't work without the entire tick team. All right, thank you all for listening, and if there are any questions, I am happy to try to answer.
Christina, this is Karen from Suffolk. I just had a quick question. Holly had emailed us and said that you guys found 2 Gulf Coast ticks at our Wonderland site, and I didn't see that in there. I was just curious what time of the year when those were collected, if you know, in Suffolk?
Oh, sorry, I tried to turn my camera on. I don't. I remember seeing one, and I want to say it was probably May or June. So the sweep that I put were all sites that we don't regularly go to, and Wonderland is one of our regular sites. which is why it wasn't on the list. But yeah, we have been getting some weird, like, I don't know if it's a drop off from a host, but yeah, it would be spring or summer, but I don't remember the exact date or time of year that we got it.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Mm. Any other questions?
If there's not, thanks, Christina. We really appreciate you presenting today, and good luck with all the work that's going on. Next up, we have Jay Kiser with the City of Suffolk, biologist for the City of Suffolk, with a presentation on Let's Get Social.
Camera not connected.
How we doing, Jay?
I think I'm doing fine.
All right.
Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yep.
Awesome. So let's get social. So these are a couple ideas that we've kind of knocked around the last couple months to get the VMCA membership together, whether that's virtually or in person. I know we get together usually once a year at the conference, but maybe we get together some more times of the year. One of these ideas is a virtual book club. So kind of reading some peer-reviewed journal articles about mosquitoes and then getting together and talking about them, thinking the app to use here is Google Meets. This is a very easy way of doing this, talking online, discussing the articles that we read. So the idea is to read 2 articles every month and then get together and talk about those 2. I was thinking the first time that we could get together would be the 15th of February. So that gives us a little bit more than 2 weeks to read some articles. And then after that, maybe meeting the first Monday of every month. So kind of more consistent. So that would be March 1st and then April 5th. If you are interested, please email me. I'll put you on the list. If you can only make some meetings and not all, that's cool. Like just come to the ones that you can come to. We'll take turns choosing the articles that we read. For the first month, I've chosen 2 articles that are down here at the bottom. The first one is kind of talking about Aedes albopictus and Aegypti worldwide, the competition between the 2 of them and how they've spread around the world. Then the second one is a Bruce Harrison paper and others talking about diversity and abundance of mosquitoes in a location in North Carolina from the 1990s to the 2010s and how it's changed over the years. So I chose these articles and I have the PDFs. I can send them to you if you're interested in meeting, but then we can take turns choosing these articles. Next time it'll be somebody else. The next month it'll be somebody else choosing these PDFs. If you are interested, please, my email is on all of these slides. The next kind of idea is an adventure club. So going out and doing a Saturday hike. We could meet once a month, maybe every 2 months. The idea is to get some exercise, explore nature, and while we're together, talk about mosquitoes. Please bring your family and friends. I get it. They probably don't want to talk about mosquitoes, but we can while they're in the back still hiking. My idea was to meet February 20th, which is like 3 weeks away. Coal Mountain. It's about 30 minutes east of Buena Vista. It's almost a 6-mile hike. It's not super strenuous. I feel like it's a good starter hike, see how the group is going as time goes on. we can, stick with this level or increase however we want to go. I'd really like to do Old Rag sometime. This hike is about 4 hours from Hampton Roads and about 3.5 hours from Nova. I get it. It's a pretty good distance for everybody, but I mean, the mountains are just that far away. So it's just something we have to deal with. I was thinking, we'll meet around 11 o'clock. I'll send anyone that's interested. I'll send you where the parking lot is, and we can go that route. So yeah, if you're interested, please, let me put you on the list. And then the last topic is Tortoise Skeeter. It's already been talked about from Charles, but basically, June 19th, we're going to do the Tortoise Skeeter, hopefully do the Tortoise Skeeter for 2021, depending on pandemic situations. Same location, Virginia Capitol Trail. You can ride your bike as little or as much as you like. If you don't want to ride your bike at all, that's okay. You can just meet us at Indian Fields Tavern and have some food and drinks. Maybe in the future we'll have a second location in Nova. I want to thank everyone that has come out and helped. Charles gave me the credit here for setting this up. Honestly, Karen Akaratovic has done way more when it comes to Tortoise Skeeter than I have. I also want to thank all the sponsors throughout the years: Central Life Sciences, Bayer, Valent, Co-Diagnostics, Adapco, Summit. We couldn't do it without you guys. So thank you. If you're interested, please email me.
I guess if there's any questions for Jay, he's available now. We have time, so. All right. Let's see. Now we have a couple of sustaining member presentations. First up is Adapco. Let's see if I can find. Let me find Ted. Is Ted up here? Or are we doing? Hey, Ted, do you have something that you want to present? I see that you're on, you're in the list of audience members. All right. Ted, anybody? Okay. If Ted's out there, you can hit me up and I'll give you your 5-minute slot. Right now we can move on to Bear. Is our Bear rep out there to do their 5-minute slot for their appropriate topic? Okay. So, if we are there, then we're actually at a break, pretty early in the break. Our next presider will be Jay Kiser. And we'll start back up at 10:10. If you would all like to just stay on and connected, that's fine. We'll just be flashing up the PowerPoint for some of the advertisements that we have here for VMCA, AMCA, MAMCA, and all of our sustaining members. and any of our other committees. So we'll see you back here at 10:10. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
You're welcome, Randy. I appreciate you speaking. I'm just in a room by myself, like many of us may be in their office. And
Hey, Charles.
What's up, Tim?
Hey, just for anybody who's still lingering around, the MAMCA meeting, the virtual meeting in February, that is free of charge, and you just have to go to the MAMCA website. We'll have information up there, and it's actually co-sponsored by the NEVBD. They're going to be actually doing all the legwork for us as far as what you're doing right here. We just have to show up and talk. But yeah, if anybody's interested in at least seeing what MAMCA is all about, that is something that we're trying to get as many people interested as possible to see, you know, what all the 9 states of MAMCA across the Mid-Atlantic region has for us this year. So just throwing it out there.
Thanks for that, Tim. If anybody else has any other announcements, you're free to open up your mic and unmute yourself and just let us know what's going on. We'd love to hear from you.
Hey, Tim, who's sponsoring that MAMCA meeting?
NEVBD, Northeast Vector-Borne Diseases.
Okay.
Yes, the northern part of that one. The Northeastern, I can't even remember how to say it. The Center for Excellence.
Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that one. Gotcha, man. Thanks.
Tim, is that Laura Harrington's group up in Cornell? I think that's the Northeastern Vector-Borne Disease Centers of CDC Center of Excellence location.
Yes, that is who it is. That group right there will be actually helping us out.
Cool, that's great. Yeah, I think I'm probably going to just tune in. It's pretty easy.
Yeah, I mean it's free, and you know the best part about it is when you get to the state reports, you're getting kind of an overview of everything that's happening around Virginia, because we're kind of right in the middle of the Mid-Atlantic region. So
yeah.
I know Andy's listening in, or he was earlier. He just retired up in Pennsylvania, but good to know what's happening up there and down south. I mean, I'm sure since y'all are looking for mosquitoes that are coming from North Carolina, that they might have something there too.
Sure. Hey, Randy, I did get in touch with Michael Riles. He sent you an email. He sent me and you an email about that, maybe helping to do some collections for japonicus. So just wanted to let you know that he's already reached out and pretty interested. So if there's anybody else out there that can help provide some maybe japonicus samples for a fellow colleague out in Florida, you know, I think he'd be also interested. Just let me know. You can email me, Charles, at cabadam@suffolkva.us. You could probably find me in the agenda somewhere. But yeah, so just a quick plug on that too. And if there's anybody else doing any other interesting work that's not going to be a part of these presentations, and it's probably a really good time for us to maybe just chat.
So Charles, on that, I got copied on his email to you on his response, and in the past, I got probably maybe 10 years ago or so, I found a local population of japonicus in my neighborhood, and I was sending George O'Meara eggs that I collected out of my backyard. He had a really hard time establishing a lab colony. He said they're very tough to get established. but
I think
I
he's.
still have.
I think he is that he may be continuing that work because he's in Florida. So, and Georgia Mir.
Yeah, and that.
Retired. Yeah.
So I have a cooler in my backyard that I'll call it a sentinel cooler. It's full of water and full of leaves, and I looked in it a week ago, and there's mosquito larvae and pupa. And then yesterday it was frozen over, and then today it's not frozen, and there's still mosquito larvae and pupa in it. And I have not extracted them and ID'd them, but I mean, I would assume, and you know what happens when you assume, right? That they're japonicus. But we'll see.
Haven't you found them under ice before?
Not in containers. Back in 2005, Lane Carr found japonicus larva in a bird bath in her backyard. But they weren't frozen over.
They weren't frozen over?
Not that I know of. And I don't know the fate of the larva that Lane found in 2005. And that was in Henrico, and this is a new Kent. But they're there. I'll shoot a little video and put it up tomorrow when I'm doing my presentation. But they're there, and I'm just like freaking out.
Well, aren't you a mosquito control official? You could do something about that.
Well,
hey, Charles.
I have a different opinion. I think this is a research project, and please don't kill my mosquitoes.
Granted.
Spoken like a true biologist right there.
Till springtime.
Hey, Charles, are we good to go with Robert Christian's presentation?
Yes, I think that we should be if we don't run into the same problems that we did with Karen's. So I'm not sure. I'm looking into that as we speak to see what's going on. I'm not really sure what the deal is. I don't know.
What we should do, if for some reason there is no sound, go ahead and skip to the next person if they're available, and we'll move that back. And I will try to give either Anton or Robert a call and see if they can, for some way, that they can get on and talk through the presentation. But hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully, because it's on your end, maybe it'll work. Maybe it's set up differently. I don't know.
10-4. I'll do that. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why that was happening. So we'll see if it was, I don't know. I think also Karen's might have been, I don't know the type of recording. So there could be there could be several different types of recordings out there. So I'm not sure if one works better than the other.
This is Robert.
How's it going?
Hey, Robert.
I just got your call.
Okay.
I am available. I have my presentation loaded just in case I have to share the screen. I would prefer to do the pre-recording because it's just a lot of information in a 30-minute time slot, but I don't want to run over, but I am available.
Sure. We'll try to run it first, Robert. If you could just stay on. We'll try to run it first and see if that works. Otherwise, if it doesn't work, we'll have you on screen so that we can do the PowerPoint presentation. Okay.
Okay. Thank you. I'll enjoy the meeting.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much for being here. I know it's a big deal for a lot of people to get that restart this year. So we appreciate everything that you've done so far, and hopefully the file will actually load right and you won't have to do anything.
You all are doing all the work.
Until the video doesn't work, and then it's on you.
Hey, Randy. Hey, Randy. Yes, it is. No, you're hearing me on my phone. Okay. Do you want to hear me through the? Do you want to hear me through the computer, or do you want to hear me through the phone? Don't say anything bad about me by phone screen. Oh, I'm on break.
We hear you through the computer, Charles.
Anyway, yeah, I'm trying to call Michael. Hi, everyone. I think we're about coming back from break. Jay, whenever you'd like to begin, you can preside.
Sounds great. So the next presentation will be Robert Christian, VDACS, a VDACS update. He's with VDACS. I am not sure if this will be a recording or a presentation from Robert himself.
I will set up the pre-recorded presentation. If again, if someone can let me know if you can hear the audio, and if it's working well, we'll move forward. If not, we do have Robert Christensen on the line or in the room, so he can do the presentation if necessary.
No sound yet on my end.
No sound on your end, Tim?
Yeah, I'm not getting any sound.
Okay, I'm not sure why it's not allowing that. Let me see if there's one more. This. And see if it works now.
Good day. I'm Robert Christian. I work with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, Office of Pesticide Services. I'm a pesticide investigator. I have the privilege today of delivering this legal update for this Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services approved pesticide applicator recertification course. I hope everyone is well today. And I'll go ahead and hide my video clip here. Let's see. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. This slide simply highlights the individuals who work in our Richmond office and throughout the state of Virginia in the field. Our team of 11 pesticide investigators is listed. Mike Apston is their most recently hired pesticide investigator who is assigned to the Farmville, Virginia area. We all work for Clint Shettle, Enforcement and Field Operations Supervisor. Our program manager who heads up the Office of Pesticide Services is Liza Gleason-Trusbach. To fit this PowerPoint into a 30-minute time slot, which I've been requested by some sponsors to do, I will present all slides with some comments for each. Should you wish to have access to this presentation for your future reference or use, please send me an email. My email address is featured on our agency's website and also on the last slide of this presentation. Discussion points for today's presentation will be as listed on the slide. We will cover regulatory authority, common violations and enforcement actions, the fact that the pesticide label is the law in Virginia, storage, disposal, and recycling, supervision, record keeping, incident reporting, pesticide product registration, and federal and state regulatory activities. The Office of Pesticide Services engages in activities which support the missions of the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services and the Board of Agriculture and Consumer Services by protecting consumers and the environment and ensuring the safe and effective control of pests that adversely impact crops, structures, health, and domestic animals. The office's authority is derived from the Virginia Pesticide Control Act and the regulations pursuant to the Act. Staff also has federal credentials to enforce provisions of the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, also known as FIFRA. The overarching federal law is the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act, FIFRA, and the state pesticide law is the Virginia Pesticide Control Act. We enforce those statutes by conducting pesticide inspections and investigations. We also enforce regulations pursuant to the Act, including those for pesticide product registration, handling, storage, and disposal, pesticide fees, licensing of pesticide businesses, pesticide applicator certification, and pesticide containers and containments. Should you need copies of the Act or the regulations, please refer to our agency website and you can obtain that information there. As I mentioned, we conduct routine inspections and for-cause investigations to determine compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. Standard inspection investigation activities may include conducting interviews, making site visits, observing pesticide applications, taking photographs, collecting pesticide residue and/or pesticide formulation samples, collecting weather data, and reviewing pesticide labels and pesticide application records. Once the pesticide investigator completes an inspection or investigation report, the totality of information collected and submitted will be reviewed in a two-stage independent review process to determine if the application was made in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. Respondents will then be notified of any alleged violations prior to any final enforcement action being taken. And should there be an enforcement action, for example, a monetary or civil penalty, the respondent will have the right to appeal in keeping with the Administrative Process Act, and always be sure to read the pesticide label first before using any pesticide. As far as violations, VDACS can take enforcement action against any person, business, or agency that violates any provision of the Virginia Pesticide Control Act, regulations, or the Federal Insecticide, Fungicide, and Rodenticide Act. The types of enforcement actions that can be taken by VDACS are also shown on the slide to include letters of caution, civil penalties for violation, license or certificate suspension, modification, revocation, or denial, filing of criminal charges, and referring to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA, for federal action. In fiscal year 2020, the violations were the same as in the recent past, except in a slightly different order. The top 5 violations are shown on the slide. Number 1 was sale of unregistered pesticide products. Number 2, applicators not being certified. 3, businesses not being duly licensed. Pesticide misuse and including negligence came in at number 4, and record-keeping deficiencies came in at number 5. Enforcement actions taken included civil penalties, stop sale orders for pesticide products, and letters of caution. This slide simply highlights some, but not all, of the statutory citations that a violator could be cited for. To avoid violations, please read, understand, and follow the Virginia Pesticide Control Act and the regulations. Should you need copies of these documents, please visit our website. The appeal process is available for those who may not agree with a regulatory decision rendered by the Office of Pesticide Services. Those appealing violations can first request an informal fact-finding conference, and if the respondent does not agree with the decision of the fact-finding conference officer, he or she can request a formal hearing at which a court-appointed attorney will make a recommendation to the Board of Agriculture and Consumer Services after hearing relevant information and considering facts of all violations in the case. The board will then consider and render a final decision in the case. Always read and follow pesticide product labeling instructions. It is a violation of federal and state law to use any pesticide product in a manner inconsistent with its labeling, and that same statement appears on pesticide labels. In Virginia, pesticide use is defined as the application or supervision of a application of a pesticide and includes all of the routine activities that are part of a normal pesticide application, including mixing, loading, applying, handling a pesticide after the original container seal is broken, cleaning up, and storing and disposing of excess product in empty containers. Always be sure to read the label first. Virginia is known as a label state, so the label is the law. And the pesticide label is a legal agreement between the registrant, the EPA, the end user, and the state lead agency responsible for pesticide regulation in Virginia. That would be VDACS. Following pesticide label directions, the risk of the use of the pesticide should be mitigated or reduced to an acceptable level to protect human health and environmental health. The label includes risk mitigation measures to include use rates, use sites, PPE, which stands for personal protective equipment, weather conditions, and other related requirements. In addition, proper product use by following the label will help to ensure continued use and availability of that pesticide for future users. Why read the label each and every time you use the product? Simple answers: labels change, and they can change rather frequently. Statements can be deleted, statements can be added. Sometimes drastic label changes occur. The legal application of any pesticide is determined by the label on the container containing the pesticide that is used during a given application. Product use limitations, for example, the frequency of application, the rate, the use sites are specific to a product and may differ for other products containing the same active ingredient. So always read the label first before using any pesticide. As mentioned earlier, storage of pesticides is considered a pesticide use activity. Store pesticides in their original label containers in a well-ventilated, secure area and away from food, pet food, feed, seed, fertilizers, and veterinary supplies. Be sure to avoid cross-contamination with other pesticides. Keep containers closed to prevent spills and contamination. Never, and I repeat, never store pesticides for even a short period of time in any type of beverage container. The two pictures shown on this slide are prime examples of what not to do when storing pesticides. Virginia offers a pesticide collection program. It rotates throughout 6 regions of the state and is held annually in one of those 6 regions. It offers agricultural producers and other pesticide users with an opportunity to dispose of canceled, banned, or unwanted pesticides, which can prove to be rather costly if they opt to go outside the pesticide collection program and hire a private vendor for disposal. This is indeed an excellent opportunity, which will be offered in 2021 in the Lower Peninsula, Middle Peninsula, and Northern Neck regions of Virginia. Since its inception, a total of over 1.5 million pounds of pesticides has been collected and properly disposed of. Virginia also offers a plastic pesticide container recycling program for some users in the state, which provide agricultural producers, pesticide dealers, and pest control firms with an option for the disposal of properly rinsed pesticide containers. Since its inception, a total of more than 2.2 million pounds of pesticide products or pesticide plastic has been collected, granulated, and recycled. Thanks to all the work of Jeff Rogers in the Richmond office for his work on the collection and container recycling programs, and also many extension agents throughout the state who have helped so much with regard to these programs over the years. If one is certified in another state or by a federal agency and wishes to use that certificate to reciprocate with and obtain a Virginia certificate, I would encourage you to explore that option. We do not reciprocate with registered technician certificates issued by other states. Also understand that reciprocal certification shall be granted based on, or shall not be granted. Again, I say shall not be granted based on reciprocal certification issued in another state. In order to reciprocate, one must hold a valid current certificate in another state or by federal, or one issued by a federal agency. Reciprocal recertification works just like it's shown on this slide. The applicator would have to maintain certification in their home state, provide proof of current certification to the agency prior to the date of Virginia's certification expiring. Be sure they're currently certified in the state that grants reciprocal recertification to Virginia applicators in like categories and have met all other Virginia requirements for recertification. Some reminders for those, including yourselves, who are attending this approved applicator recertification course. Be sure to attend the entire course. Be sure to complete all required paperwork, and be sure that if you've signed more than once, that your signature bears a resemblance, or signatures bear a resemblance to each other. There have been cases where our office has had to question the authenticity of signatures. So be sure to keep that in mind. Reporting requirements for pesticide accidents and incidents. Reportable accidents or incidents are those that constitute a threat to any person, to public health or safety, or to the environment as a result of the use or presence of any pesticide. It includes both general and restricted use pesticides, involves no minimum reporting requirement, and those incidents and accidents must be reported to VDACS within 48 hours by phone and within 10 days in writing. Remember that it's not a violation to report a pesticide accident or incident, but it may be one if you don't, and our office learns about the accident or incident by other means. Also be aware that other reporting requirements outside of the Virginia Pesticide Control Act and regulations may exist, such as those enforceable by the Virginia Department of Environmental Quality. Every pesticide manufactured, distributed, sold, offered for sale, used, or offered for use shall be registered with the Virginia Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. Pesticides that are exempt from federal EPA registration, known as Section 25B products, are not exempt from Virginia's pesticide registration requirements. If you choose to check the registration status of a product, you can use our website and use the pesticide product registration resources available there. As far as restricted use pesticides, if there's any doubt in your mind whether a product is restricted use or not, you can simply look on the label, and the label will have a restricted use pesticide declaration. Those products are for use only by certified applicators or by certified registered technicians under the direct supervision of certified applicators, unless the label says otherwise. Restricted use products are designated as restricted use based on risk. For example, their acute toxicity threat to humans and wildlife, their groundwater contamination potential, or their potential threat to aquatic organisms. When buying pesticides via the internet, be sure to exercise due diligence. Remember, all pesticides must be registered in Virginia. This includes those that are purchased on the internet. While it is not the buyer's responsibility to buy pesticides from licensed online retailers, it is the retailer's responsibility to be licensed unless they qualify for an exemption from those requirements. Product registration and business license data can be obtained by visiting our website. Pesticide fees that are currently in effect are listed on this slide, as well as the forms that can be used to comply with those requirements for product registration, business licensing, and certification. I'll just let you look at those. Product registration is currently $225 per product. Business license, also an annual requirement of $150 per outlet. Commercial applicator certificates and registered technician certificates, there's an initial fee of $100 for commercial applicators and $50 for registered technicians. Then those are renewed every other year on June 30th. Okay, and to add a commercial applicator category, a currently certified commercial applicator would submit the required form and and $35 for all the exams that they can take at one sitting. Applicators protecting pollinators. Pollinator protection is a topic that has gathered a lot of interest over the last few years. Be sure to do all you can to protect pollinators. If the label has language, or the product label has pollinator protection language on it, look at that language. If it's mandatory label instructions, make sure you follow all those instructions. The state does have a voluntary plan. This plan to mitigate the risk of pesticides to manage pollinators offers beekeepers and pesticide applicators with opportunities to provide and exchange information. There are some apps that, if you want interested in those, please visit the website shown on this slide. It's important that beekeepers provide information regarding the location of their hives, but it's not required. And also pesticide applicators are afforded the opportunity to provide advance notice of applications that they may be planning that might have the potential to impact managed pollinator. Certification reminders, whose responsibility is it? It's the applicator's responsibility to obtain and maintain one certification. Be sure that our office has your current mailing address so that we can get all the required paperwork to you and renewal forms to you. You should be aware of when your certificate expires and renew before your certificate expires. You can do so by attending recertification courses once every 2 years, or by being re-examined once every 2 years, and also submitting the required renewal application forms along with the required fees. Some more reminders for commercial applicators and registered technicians. Again, it's the applicator's responsibility to maintain certification. By attending today's course, you should earn 2 years credit in the categories for which you have and for which this course is approved. Fall status reports. It sounds like the audio went. Deficiencies that may exist regarding your certification, and that ends on August 29th. If you don't renew by August 29th, the only way to renew your certificate is by being re-examined. Another option that one has to qualify for renewal is to test in lieu of attending a recertification course. Be aware that if you do that, then you have to submit 2 separate applications and 2 separate fees, one for testing and one for renewal. Also, testing is still offered at DMV locations throughout the state. Be sure to set up an appointment during the COVID-19 pandemic, because that's the only way that you be able to test there. You can also contact our local pesticide investigators and see if they may be able to administer you the exams, provided you have a valid authorization letter. Some COVID-19 and applicator certification requirement reminders. Letters of authorization have been extended several times. All letters to take the pesticide applicator exams issued on or after December 20th, 2019, and which have not been used, have been extended to June 30th, 2021, or the expiration date on the authorization letter, whichever is greater. We've also granted an exception for certification for licensed pesticide businesses, for commercial applicator not-for-hire operations, and governmental operations to allow their employees to apply pesticides without obtaining a registered technician certification only for the duration of the state of emergency due to COVID-19 is declared by Governor Northam, Executive Order number 51, and then no more than 30 days after that order is rescinded when these employees meet certain training and testing requirements, and those training and testing requirements are featured on our website. Supervision requirements for registered technicians using restricted use pesticides. Unless there's a label prohibition against the registered technician using a restricted use product, they can do so. There are some agricultural products that state that the restricted use pesticide can only be used by certified applicators. Since EPA does not officially recognize registered technicians as being certified applicators, Virginia does not allow registered technicians to use products that have that statement on them. Unless that statement is on them, on the product, then registered technicians can use restricted use products under the direct supervision of a certified commercial applicator, certified in the appropriate category, and the commercial applicator can be on site but need not be as long as they are accessible within telephone or radio contact of the registered technician, and they've also provided the registered technician with proper instructions on proper product use, and they are responsible for the action of the registered technician. Certified registered technicians may use general use pesticides without any required supervision by certified applicators. Supervision requirements for individuals training to become registered technicians requires that a commercial applicator certified in the appropriate category provide direct on-site supervision to the trainee. The supervising certified commercial applicator must also provide instructions on proper product use, be physically on-site, that is physically present, and be in constant visual contact with the person applying the pesticide. They're responsible for the actions of the uncertified person, and that training must be documented and submitted to VDACS in order for that person to qualify to take the registered technician exams. It is understood that registered technician training can continue after one is certified. Should he or she need additional training to apply pesticides in other categories, he or she and the certified commercial applicator providing that training will both sign the proof of additional category specific training for registered technician form and certify that the technician has received training in additional categories. These categories will appear on the next registered technician certificate issued in the trained in section of that certificate. Some reminders for governmental employees and volunteers applying pesticides. All governmental employees and volunteers applying pesticides for governmental organizations have to be certified. That certification is only valid when they're applying pesticides either for or on governmental sites. Since governmental agencies are not recognized as pesticide businesses, they don't have to have a certified commercial applicator on staff to train prospective registered technicians, but it's definitely a good practice. They could hire a certified or use a certified commercial applicator provided by another governmental agency, or they could simply hire or otherwise retain a certified commercial applicator to train prospective registered technicians. In all cases, the certified commercial applicator must be certified in the category in which the registered technician will be working. Also understand that both governmental employees and volunteers need to comply with Virginia's pesticide applicator record keeping requirements. As far as the proper category to have to engage in public health pest control pesticide applications, such as those for the control of mosquitoes, is category 8. How many certified commercial applicators must a business have that is making pesticide applications to control mosquitoes? At least one. May registered technicians at licensed pesticide businesses apply pesticides to control public health pests? Yes, they may, provided they've been properly trained and that training has been properly documented. Business licenses are required of those businesses that sell, distribute, or store pesticides, or apply or recommend for use any pesticide commercially, or those that sell restricted use pesticides or distribute restricted use pesticides for purposes of selling. There's some different requirements as far as whether they have to have a certified applicator on site. That's listed here on the slide. More information, please visit their website. The owner or the operator of that business is responsible for keeping us posted of their current mailing address and also providing a current certificate of insurance to our office, which has to be kept on file. Business license expires on March 31st of every year. If it's not renewed by March 31st, then the business is not licensed and cannot conduct or engage in pesticide business activities. All the applicator certificates associated with that business would also be inactive should the business not renew its license. That same case would apply in the case of the business having an active license but not having an active certificate of insurance. All applicator certificates associated with that business would become invalid or inactive, and also the business license would no longer be valid. Pesticide fees, about all I have to say about that is avoid a 20% late fee by renewing and paying on time. Record keeping is important. Your record should reflect the fact that if you made the application correctly, and that would be our hope and expectation, make sure that your records reflect that the application was made correctly. There's no need of not recording the application correctly if it was made correctly. So be sure to record it correctly. This is required information in the record keeping requirement, or Virginia's record keeping requirements, I'm sorry. My time is up, so thanks for letting me be here. My information is posted there. If you want to take a snapshot of that, you've got 3, 2, 1 second. I hope you all remain safe, and thanks for your time today.
Thank you, Robert. I guess we're kind of running out of time. Does anybody have any quick questions? All right, great. Well, I'm going to introduce the next speaker, Laura Fryzlewicz from Virginia Tech Biochemistry Department. We'll be giving a talk on developing a toxic sugar bait to target Aedes japonicus. And first I should say, Lauren, are you here?
Yes, I'm here.
Great. So I'm going to chime in when you have a minute left. So if you hear me yell out the word 1 minute, that's just what that means.
Okay.
All right, great. And I suppose once Charles has you able to share your screen, then I will start the time and you'll be ready to go.
All right, sounds good.
Lauren, you're now the presenter.
Okay, everyone can see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, today I'm going to talk to you about my project, developing a toxic sugar bait to target Aedes japonicus, mosquitoes. So just general introduction. So as a lot of us know, mosquitoes are the deadliest animal on the planet because they have the ability to vector multiple pathogens, such as West Nile virus, dengue, and malaria. And they're able to spread these pathogens by some female mosquitoes taking a blood meal from an infected host and then going to a new non-infected host and taking a new blood meal and transferring the pathogen to that host. But some mosquitoes have to consume those blood meals just in order to obtain essential nutrients to develop her eggs, and the blood does not give her any energy or anything else to complete her life cycle. So all mosquitoes, no matter the species or sex of the mosquito, male and female mosquitoes must consume carbohydrates as their primary energy source. And they can get these carbohydrates from nectar and fruit juices or other vegetation in their area. So the goal of this project is to utilize the sugar-feeding behaviors of mosquitoes to limit their populations. And we'll do that by developing an attractive toxic sugar bait. These traps are insect lure traps that are composed of 3 parts. First, an odor and attractant, a toxic chemical, and sugar. And because these traps have the basis of sugar, they're able to target both male and female mosquitoes, which is important for limiting their populations. So some more benefits of toxic sugar baits is that they're really inexpensive to develop, they're sustainable, environmentally friendly, and can be species specific. So just the overarching main goal is that we want to use this technology to limit specific populations of mosquitoes using these sugar feeding behaviors. So a little bit more of the Aedes japonicus mosquito. These mosquitoes are indigenous to Japan and Korea, and they are invasive to Europe and the United States. And they also have an ability to vector pathogens such as lacrosse virus and West Nile virus. And since they have a special ecological plasticity as a cold-tolerant species, these mosquitoes have a longer active season when they're in a more temperate climate, such as the Appalachian region here in Blacksburg, Virginia. So if they are cold-tolerant species, they have a longer active season. They do have more of a possibility to interact with people and possibly vector these pathogens to more people. So we want to limit their populations. So we did this by developing this cup assay. So we first wanted to collect mosquito larvae from the field. And so we collected our larvae and then we brought it back to the lab to rear them as adults to use for experiments later. We then made sugar solutions contain either a control solution or a toxic solution. The control solutions did not have our oral insecticide, which is boric acid, and the toxic solutions did contain the boric acid. We then placed the mosquitoes that we collected from the field into cups containing both male and female mosquitoes, and then we placed them into a climate chamber. We then fed these mosquitoes that were in the cups either a control solution or a toxic solution, and we then observed their mortality over a 96-hour period. So a little bit more on boric acid. So we know this chemical is toxic at low concentrations, and it also has been proven to be able to control the populations of German cockroaches and other mosquito species such as Aedes albopictus. And we think that it is killing these insects because it's damaging the epithelium of the gut and inhibiting the absorbance of nutrients from their meals, thus making them die. So we first then wanted to see if this boric acid oral insecticide would work on our mosquitoes. So we have this here I have some of the results. This is showing you the survival of male and female mosquitoes over a 96-hour period, where the solid lighter bar is the mosquitoes that fed on a control solution, and the dark dotted bar are the mosquitoes that have eaten the toxic solution. And each of these conditions were replicated 10 times and had at least between 20 and 50 mosquitoes for them. So yeah, using our sucrose solutions, we wanted to see if boric acid would work on our species of the Aedes japonicus mosquito. And as you can see, it did. All these mosquitoes that fed on the toxic solution died within 48 hours, while the other mosquitoes that fed on the 10% sucrose were able to survive for the 96. So we then wanted to see if we could put a fruit to this solution and see if there would be any type of preference of fruit solution. So we did 3 different categories of sugary solutions, where the first category is the first row, where we did peach in yellow and mango in orange. And these are more stone fruits, so we categorize them that way. And as you can see, they had pretty much similar results to what we saw with the sucrose. So that was really interesting. And we also did a berry group where we did a blueberry and a blackberry solution. And again, all of the mosquitoes that fed on the toxic solution died within 48 hours, and the mosquitoes that fed on the control solution survived. And then what was really interesting is that we also did a pre-made solution category where we used a Coca-Cola product and a grape juice to make these solutions, and they fed on them, so that was really interesting, and they did die if they fed on the toxic solution. So just some conclusions from that first experiment was that it seemed that there was no preference between the sugar solutions, and that the mosquitoes will eat whatever you give them. So that's really cool. But and just the main big goal is that main result is that we found that our attractive toxic sugar bait solutions are effective at killing both female and male Aedes japonicus mosquitoes. So that leads us to the question is there a preference between a toxic and a non-toxic solution? So that led us to doing these cage assay methods where we would test 6 conditions over a 96-hour period where we would feed mosquitoes. We'd only give them a control option, and then we gave them an option between a toxic cotton ball and a control cotton ball, and we also did a double toxic condition. And each of these conditions have 5 replicates and 20 mosquitoes per cage. So the results for our cage assay, as you can see for the control column here, is that the sucrose and the peach that were tested, they all survived, and so the mosquitoes weren't dying due to them being placed into a bigger environment or anything like that. And we also can see that if there was a toxic condition here on the far right, you're able to see that they do die very fast, and they died kind of faster than what we saw in the cup assays, which was pretty interesting. But then going to the toxic and the control option, here you can see that the survival of the mosquitoes decreases over the 96-hour period. So that makes us think that these mosquitoes are not able to differentiate between a toxic and a non-toxic solution. And here's a picture showing you just both a sucrose and a peach, where there's mosquitoes feeding on both a toxic cotton ball and a control cotton ball, which is really interesting. So in summary, we found that boric acid is a suitable oral insecticide to use for this species of mosquito, and that there's no preference of fruit solutions from what we've seen so far.
1 minute.
And that they're able to eat anything that you give them, and that mosquitoes are not able to differentiate between the toxic and non-toxic solutions, which is good for us, and that our attractive toxic sugar baits are effective at killing both male and female mosquitoes. So in the future, we would like to test our solutions in the field, and we would like to observe the efficacy and off-target species interactions. And we're also planning on doing a few other things to analyze the sense of our solutions and other things like that, and expanding the range of our trap. So we're going to see how that is during the field season. But I would like to acknowledge Dr. Lahander, Dr. Vinajay, and my undergrad, Ashvin Winkle, and our labs, and you guys for listening to my talk today, and the Global Change Center at Virginia Tech for funding, and the Department of Biochemistry at Virginia Tech as well. I'll gladly take any questions, and if there isn't any time, you're welcome to contact me with questions as well.
Thank you, Lauren. So we are out of the time, but if anyone has any questions, you can chat back and forth in the chat section and ask your questions and answer there.
There is a question for Lauren from Laura Harrington. If you want to address that in the chat, that would be great. Thanks, Lauren.
Yeah.
Our next presenter is Kendall Vaughan from ODU University. The topic of the presentation, Watching Ticks, Lessons Learned from a Freshman Tick Observation Labs. Kendall, are you here?
I'm here.
Great. So just the same as before. When you hit that 1 minute mark, I will. I'll just kind of say it for you.
Great.
You are as soon as you have access to share your screen, you should be good to go.
Kendall, you are now the presenter.
All right, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Great. All right, my name's Kendall. I am finishing up my MPH studies with Dr. Gaff and her tick research team, and I'm going to present the results of a really cool project they did that they have been doing, where they essentially turn undergraduate freshmen into mini researchers. First, why do we care about tick behavior? Well, it's because we don't know much. They're hard to watch. You can't really sit a graduate student outside and say, record what you see, because one, that's how you get Lyme disease, and two, you just can't see them. So we don't know much about them. So in order to learn about them, we have to bring the ticks to us. But that's really boring. So how do we study them and get reliable data points time after time? We crowdsource. Crowdsourcing is a newish scientific approach. It's evidence-based. It's often used with the general public or with high school students. It's really, really useful for getting a lot of data, and it's cheap, which I think is the best thing here. Being in the vector-borne disease world, we like cheap. We like free labor. But all good things come with some bad things. Crowdsourcing, the limit, it's hard to take hundreds of people and accurately train them to make them researchers. So you will have errors. And historically, it's been really challenging to get people to engage, to get people to keep coming back, or if they have information, it's challenging for them to actually send it in. But not the case with this, because they use students. Students are a really captive audience. They have to be there because they want to graduate. And the group that they used this past semester were all biology majors. There were no non-majors, so theoretically they should be interested in science. Everything was controlled. All the environmental condition in the terraria was all controlled. If students had questions, the TAs could answer in live time. And it allows for semester-long time series, so you're going to get data points week after week reliably. So this is what the freshmen were staring at each lab. They were either looking at terraria A and B or D and C, C and D. They were asked to just look at the terraria, and they had rulers, and they were asked to measure every tick they saw in centimeters. That was sometimes really difficult. It seems pretty simple, but sometimes it was not. But that's all they were asked to do, just observe the ticks, record them. And they were asked to record them on this sheet. So again, very simple. Write down the terraria, write down if there's condensation, if there was fungal growth, if the lights were on or off. They were asked to record, again, all the ticks they saw. If there were more than 8, then they were asked to write them on the back, which that was pretty difficult for sometimes as well. They were asked to write the species and any comments they had. So this question, this experiment has been ran a few times before. The previous questions were northern versus southern tick, black-legged ticks, black-legged versus lone star. My favorite one was a lone star nymph versus the empty tank. I think that was a psychology experiment, but I would have loved to be a fly on that wall to watch them look at an empty tank, because you know someone wrote something down. But the current question we had was looking at Gulf Coast nymphs, their questing behaviors. And what we wanted to know, We wanted to know the number of observations by the day of the week. So were the ticks going hard at the beginning of the week and then falling off? Were they partying on the weekends? What was their week schedule like? The number of observations by the time of day. Were they morning ticks? Were they evening ticks? The number of observations by the week of the semester. Were they more active in the beginning of the year versus the end? The number of observations by the environmental conditions. So did the fungus, condensation, and lights make a difference? And to control for our research method of using crowdsourcing, we wanted to know the number of observations by students, initials. So who are the overachievers, who are the underachievers, and what was sort of the average per semester? Before we get into those answers, though, the total observations that we recorded, data points. That's a ton of data points, and that's why crowdsourcing is such a great way to get the answers for tick behaviors. There's still a couple Monday labs that we're entering, so it's going to be over 17,000. There were 24 different lab sections over 6 weeks, and we had 420 unsuspecting mini researchers. This was the COVID semester. Typically, these were done for 10-week periods, but at week 6, that's when quarantine hit. That's when everyone was sent home, so this one was cut short. But still, 17,000 data points. That's 6 weeks, and that's pretty good for 6 weeks. So what we actually saw, average observations per day of the week, it looks like they were going hard at the beginning of the week. Again, we are still recording some of the Monday labs, so I'm interested to see what Monday does, but it looks like there's a general trend of them not questing as much as the week went on. And then Saturday hit and they went to party. The time of day, it looks like they're waking up about 9 o'clock. They are searching for some food around 9:30, and then mid-morning comes, afternoon comes, evening comes, and there's a lull in the day. So interesting to see at 9:30 why it was so much higher. So hopefully we'll have an answer to that question. Observations by week. This didn't really make a difference. It looks pretty even. So week 5, that is the 5th week of the year. So that would be the first week of February, and then on until March when quarantine hit. But this, I would expect to look like that because of these environmental conditions. They were kept the same throughout the whole 6 weeks. So it doesn't look like fungal growth makes a difference. Requesting behaviors. It does look like lights make a difference. So were they seeking the heat source, or were the lights just on and students were able to actually see what they were looking at? In this one, individual students, this is the number of observations per student. We had some overachievers. You can see the high blips there, and we had the kids that like sort of woke up for a little bit in lab, wrote something down, then went back to sleep. So we're looking for the average here, and this is how we know that crowdsourcing is a reliable source of data, because it's average in the middle. So commentary. My job was to enter the data. I was the one looking at the sheets, typing everything in the computer, and I learned that there's a lot of interpretation to science, and freshmen will be freshmen. So some ticks were just fiving. My personal favorite was Gang Gang. He's dead. There were some conversion issues. They were supposed to write the heights down in centimeters, but this is America, so you know someone had to write in inches. And then on the right here, this girl made me do reverse math where she measured from the top down. At least I think that's what she did. I mean, that's what I entered. There were some incomplete forms. Writing in the information was sometimes really challenging. Sometimes writing their names was challenging. And the attention to detail. You could tell that some kids have no future in science. And then you can tell some kids, but you want to tap them on the shoulder and you want to ask what they're doing for the rest of their life. They want to become a researcher because their comments were very insightful and good. And then this form was really only as good as the TA who was explaining it. So not to throw any TAs under the bus, but you could tell the TAs who have an interest, whose research focus was ticks and whose was not. So conclusions. We have concluded that this is useful to get lots of data, again, over 17,000 data points. And these trends can be seen even with all the issues of them not being trained and not really knowing that they were actually researching. So in the future, this will be combined with 2 other studies looking at the Lone Star and black-legged ticks. We're working towards publication, but if spoiler alert, what makes this one different compared to the first 2? So the Lone Star tick and the black-legged ticks weren't that active. They weren't questing that high or that much. But the Gulf Coast tick, they were crazy, crazy climbers. They were very active. And when we're looking at this as a group, everyone, all the grad students and Dr. Gaff, they were all shaking their heads because they don't know why this tick species is climbing as high as it is. So that's a really cool question to ask. Why is that? I think it's going to lead to new research avenues, and it's just an example of why we need to keep doing studies like this. Acknowledgements. I would like to personally thank Dr. Gaff for taking me on as her intern. I'd like to thank all of her grad students who have been answering my questions and walking me through the research process. And as you can see here, this is a large group of names. So this is a large group of people that are dedicated to finding out more knowledge, publishing that knowledge, and then helping the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Kendall.
I should.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I should have included a slide that said questions.
Well, this is the time for questions. We have a little over 2 minutes. If anyone has any questions, they can turn their mic on and ask away. All right. Well, thank you very much, Kendall. And I guess if anyone has any questions and they are mic shy, they can always type it in and you can go.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next presenter is Central Life Science, one of our sustaining memberships. Do we have Jeff O'Neill, or is there any presentation here?
Yeah, it's a pre-recorded.
Okay, great. Well, you've got time to do what you need to do, Charles.
Zoe Khan's vision of professional products. I'd like to wish you Hello, I'm Jeffrey O'Neill from Central Life Sciences, Zoecon's vision of professional products. I'd like to wish you all a very happy, healthy, and prosperous new year in 2021. I would also like to thank you for your support of our Zoecon vector products. I have some new things to introduce to you that I hope will help you in your fight against mosquitoes and vector-borne diseases. Please welcome these new offerings from our Central Life Sciences Zoecon vector products, and please stay well.
Okay, guys. That was Jeff's Central Life Sciences presentation.
Great. Thank you, Charles. Our next presenter is the student poster competition winner. She won the Jorge Arias Student Competition Award for 2020-21. If you are interested in the actual poster itself, it's posted a couple places on the website, so take a look after the talk. So yes, we have Na Xie from Virginia Tech giving a presentation, Muscarinic-Selective Target Site Synergism as a new mosquito control strategy. Na, are you with us?
Yes. So
Great.
I'm going to share the screen, or yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's great. Now hold it up and I'll take a picture.
Oh, okay. So, is that okay?
That is great.
Okay.
Thank you. Picture taken.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to share my screen now.
Yes, and now I will at the 5-minute mark, I'll say 5 minutes, and then at the 1 minute mark, I'll say 1 minute.
Okay. So I'm going to turn off my camera first, just for
Okay.
not waste the time. Sure. So can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'll start it. So yeah, thanks for the introduction. Hi everyone, my name is Na. I'm a PhD student from the Department of Entomology at Virginia Tech, and I work in Dr. Aaron Gross' lab studying G protein cut photoreceptors. I'm so excited and happy to win the first award for my poster, and also glad to have this opportunity to present part of my research. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So for this presentation, I briefly convert my poster into a PowerPoint just for better zoom out effect, and I hope you will like it. So the main point of my poster is talking about the Muscarinic-Selective target site synergism in Drosophila, with the long-term goal to identify underutilized physiological systems that can be translated into insecticide target or work synergistically with other insecticides to control mosquitoes. So let's look at the background information first. It is the rapid evolution of insecticide resistance among mosquitoes that has severely impacted the progress of pest management, and more specifically, weakened our ability to control mosquito-borne infectious diseases. And like showing here, according to 2020 World Malaria Report, for example, our resistance to organochlorides, organophosphate, carbamate, and pyrethroids among malaria mosquitoes has widespread. So under this situation, it is imperative to develop alternative or new mosquito control method. Then we come up with the idea that target site synergism might be a potential solution to mitigate the development of resistance among mosquitoes. So what is target site synergism? Let's figure out synergism first. In this picture, there are two chemicals, A and B. I'm going to use the laser point. A and B, and chemical A can cause like 10% of response on scale. Chemical B alone can cause like 5% of response. So if we're going to test the effect of the mixture of A and B, there are three different situations. First, additive, which means that the mixture of these two chemicals should be like 15%. Just the sum of the individual effect of two chemicals. Second, it is synergism, meaning that the observed effect of the mixture is greater than 15%. It's like 20%. Last, if the effect of the mixture is less than the sum of the individual effect, like here the effect of the mixture of A and B is less than 15%, it is called antagonism. So, in short, just like those three equations show here, synergism is when 1 + 1 greater than 2. Now, now we figure out what is synergism is. So again, what is target site synergism? Obviously, we have to talk about target site. So the first target site I'm going to talk about is the muscarinic acetylcholine receptors, which are G-protein coupled receptors, GPCRs. So how does these receptors work? Well, basically a GPCR is a transmembrane protein, like you show in green, which will receive the information outside of the cell and then transmit the information into the cell. Then the second messengers like calcium ions, cyclic adenosine monophosphate or CAMP will be produced to participate in downstream regulation of significant physiological functions. And then switching back to the muscarinic acetylcholine receptors, and compared to the nicotinic acetylcholine receptors, muscarinic receptors haven't been successfully developed as an insecticide target and remain to be underexplored because currently there are no insecticides on the market targeting these receptors. And the second target site I want to mention is GABA A receptors, which is gamma aminobutyric acid gated chloride channels. They are established insecticidal targets with several famous classes of insecticide developed, including lindane, dieldrin, and fipronil. And this insecticide block GABA-gated chloride channels and causing hyperexcitation in insects, and leading to the death of this contaminated insect. So, based on this information, in this research, target site synergism is when combined effect of two molecules with different modes of action is larger than the additive effect. And I think you already know that the two target sites here are what I have talked about previously, the underdeveloped muscarinic acetylcholine receptors and the well-known GABA A receptors. So the objective of this study is to measure the target site synergism when pilocarpine, which is a chemical targeting muscarinic receptors, is mixed with GABAergic insecticides in Drosophila. And the hypothesis here is that the modulation of the muscarinic system by pilocarpine will enhance the toxicity of fipronil, lindane, and dieldrin. which are oral inhibitors of GABA-A receptors. And to study this, I used Drosophila melanogaster as the test insect because, you know, it's an excellent insect model with lots of like advantages. And 2 strains I used here, the wild type strain and the mutant strain carrying the RDL mutation in the GABA-A receptor. But again, I want to emphasize here that the long-term goal of this research is to develop novel strategies that could be applied to control mosquitoes. Yeah. And for my method, I have 2 parts. First, for adult oral toxicity, I chose the adult female and male flies at the age of 5 to 7 days and starved them for 4 hours. And then the chemical solutions is orally delivered to the flies to test the LC50 of the chemical. Then I calculate the synergistic ratio using this equation, the LC50 without pilocarbine divided by the LC50 with pilocarbine. So if the synergistic ratio is greater than 1, it is synergism. And if it's smaller than 1, it's antagonism. And second, it's in vitro. I perform extracellular electrophysiology. So first, our third instar wandering larva will be dissected with forceps. So one, like shown in figure B, one forceps drags the mouse hook and the other forceps holds the larval body, and then we separate them gently to obtain the intact central nervous system, like showing here. So here's the picture of the entire central nervous system of the Drosophila. It is composed of 2 cerebral lobes, a ventral ganglia, and a descending peripheral nerves. Then the intact CNS will be disrupted posterior to the cerebral lobes to break the blood-brain barrier to facilitate the penetration of the chemical. And then some of the peripheral nerves will be taken into a suction electrode and ready to measure the nerve firing activity coming from the CNS when it's exposed to buffer or a vehicle or certain chemical solutions. So now let's take a look at the in vivo result. This table shows that pilocarpine alone has a moderate oral toxicity in the wild type strain of adult flies, like with a LC50 value about 9,000 ppm. By injection, the pilocarpine is a little bit more toxic with an LD50 of 831 nanogram per milligram. Here, one of the things that I want to point out is that pilocarpine is primarily a mammalian pharmaceutical agonist, not an insecticide. So we just use pilocarpine to probe the entire muscarinic system in Drosophila. But you know, when pilocarpine mixes with GABAergic insecticide, it enhances the toxicity of this insecticide dramatically in wild type adult flies. So in this table, the LC50 value of fipronil alone is about like 1.3 ppm. When it combines with pilocarpine, the value decreased to about 0.3 ppm with a synergistic ratio of 4.3, which is significantly different from the additive ratio of 2. So, and for linden, the LC50 of linden decreased from about 1 ppm to 0.03 ppm when it combines with pilocarpine, with a great synergistic ratio of 32. And their additive ratio here is also 2. And deodorant, pilocarpine enhances deodorant's toxicity by decreasing the LC50 value from about 1 to 0.1 ppm. So obviously the toxicity increased about 10-fold. And we see here the additive ratio is only 2.4. This result is so exciting because we see a great synergism in vivo. So we want to see what happened at the level of the central nervous system, or CNS. And by extracellular electrophysiology in the left figure, let's see that 10 micromolar pilocarpine leads to significant CNS neural excitation, about 60% increase of the nerve firing rate when compared to the buffer control. And the right figure here is a typical recording of the raw data example of the electrophysiology. And the extracellular electrophysiology was also used to test the CNS inhibition with the linden. In this figure, the y-axis is the percent of the CNS inhibition with the standard error mean, and that the x-axis represents the log value of the concentrations. So from this figure, we found that the inhibition of the linden is enhanced by pilocarpine. You see here the inhibition curve of linden alone, shown in gray, has a left shift with the addition of 1 micromolar pilocarpine, this maroon curve, and 3 micromolar pilocarpine are shown in orange in the white type strain of larvae. So look closely in this table. The IC50 of linden alone is about like 1.3 micromolar, and when linden mixes with pilocarpine, 1 micromolar pilocarpine decreased the IC50 of linden about 3-fold to 0.4 micromolar, and 3 micromolar pilocarpine decreased the value about 6-fold to 0.2 micromolar. So this is the synergistic effect in the white type strain. What about in the mutant strain? Surprisingly, in the mutant adult flies, the synergistic activity is lost. As we can see here in this table, the synergistic ratio of fipronil and pilocarpine is only 0.1, suggesting even a significant antagonism. So the additive ratio here is 2.7 with a theoretical additive LC50 of 2.6. Yeah.
5 minutes.
And thank you. And the synergistic ratio of linden and pilocarpine is 1.4, but it's not significantly different from the additive ratio here, which is 1. So these results are not what we expected. So we want to see if it's the same thing happening in vitro. So in vitro with extracellular electrophysiology with mutant larvae, the CNS inhibition of linden is also enhanced by pilocarpine. Like with 1 micromolar pilocarpine, the IC50 value of linden decreased from 3.9 to 2.4. And when 3 micromolar pilocarpine added, the IC50 value decreased about 3-fold to 1.3 micromolar. This is not consistent with the in vivo result because we don't see a synergism in the mutant adult flies. So to conclude here, first, pilocarpine enhances the toxicity of GABA-A insecticides in susceptible Drosophila flies, and this indicates the potential of synergism between the insect muscarinic system and the GABAergic system to control mosquitoes. And second, we have seen that the loss of target site synergism pilocarpine with GABA-A insecticides in mutant flies, it is intriguing. So the ongoing studies will focus on this perplexing phenomena and continue to explore the pharmacology of insect muscarinic acetylcholine receptors to find muscarinic-selective synergists and insecticides to control mosquitoes. And last, I want to thank my committee members and all the funding sources. And again, thanks for giving me this award. And with that, thank you all very much. And I would like to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Na. We can now open up for questions. If anyone has any, just turn on your microphone and ask away. I'm going to ask the first. Are you or your lab thinking about exploring these same studies using mosquitoes? And if so, is there particular species of mosquitoes that you might be interested in?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question because, my project previously was based on one of the kind of mosquitoes, Anopheles gambiae, malaria vectors. So yeah. And in the future, because there are a lot of safety biohazard issues of raising mosquitoes. So in the future, we will figure out a way to apply these results into mosquitoes. Yes, definitely yes.
Thank you.
I'm going to piggyback that. Me and Jay and Karen work in the same lab, and we do pesticide resistance testing on our Culex pipiens population. And that would be interesting if there was, work done on how to decrease the resistance of Culex to particular pesticides that they are resistant to throughout the United States. But also, it really does depend on what pesticides you plan on using, because the market is flooded with so much permethrin. The only pesticide that I saw that was somewhat familiar to me and was associated with mosquitoes was fipronil. But I never seen the other ones because you're going to be working with, mosquitoes that have mosquitoes that are just different from a Drosophila fly. So do you have an idea of what pesticides you think you would be targeting to use with the pilocarpine?
That's a really good question because you see from my results, it seems like the synergism of pilocarpine with GABAergic insecticides can't break the resistance in the mutant strains of Drosophila. But with specific mosquito species, I think in the future, I'm going to test the synergism between pilocarpine and the permethrin. So the pyrethroids, because we want to see if there is a true synergism between the muscarinic system and the other target sites like the sodium channels and blockers like the permethrin and maybe the acetylcholinesterase inhibitors like propoxyl carbamate. So I'm going maybe in the future. So I will test maybe different target sites, maybe test different insecticides with different targets. Yeah. But
Great.
I'm not sure if there's a specific insecticide I'm going to use to test with pilocarpine.
Well, thank you, Na. And that's all the time we
Can I
have
say
for.
something?
Sure.
I just want to say that dieldrin and lindane are chlorinated hydrocarbons and are no longer on the market, at least in this country. They may be overseas, I don't know. Fipronil is used commonly in pest control for a variety of insects, but to my knowledge, there are no mosquito products with fipronil in them yet. I don't know if it's effective, but those are my comments as a manufacturer of pesticides.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. That helps.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for questions. That's all the time we have. That's all the time we have for questions. If anyone has any questions, you can put it in the chat portion, and you can ask and answer away there. Thank you again, Na.
Well, thank you very much.
Our next presentation will be Carla Caulkins, from Chesapeake Mosquito Control Commission. The presentation will be an update on off-season larval surveillance. Carla, are you with us?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can. So as soon as Charles gives you presentation rights, you can share your screen, and I will, at the 1 minute mark, I'll just come in and say 1 minute, and then you'll know.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Carla, you are the presenter. Awesome.
Thank you. Can you see my presentation okay?
I could, but then it went away.
No.
I can now.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Carla Caulkins, and I'm a biologist at Chesapeake Mosquito Control Commission. I'm going to give a quick update on our off-season larval surveillance program. So just to give a little recap, we conduct our larval surveillance late November to early March. We do this to determine when we need to start larviciding. And this is accomplished by doing routine larval dipping. Once we start finding larvae, you know it's time to start treating. Larval surveillance is vital for predicting adult mosquito emergence for the upcoming season. 2 years ago, we based our sites off of our buffalo turbine. This had to change due to there being only a few sites where the buffalo turbine could actually be used. The buffalo turbine does still get used in each of our districts throughout the whole summer. So we switched our focus to Chesapeake's blocking sites. And the blocks we use are 150-day extended release product. It is a growth regulator, and there is no need for multiple reapplications. And we try to save the blocks for places that are easy to reach in the winter or early spring, but are hard to get to during the summer due to forest overgrowth. This will also last through most of the summer and help keep our trap numbers down for species like Aedes canadensis. And in the upper right-hand corner, you can see some of the blocks that we use. And this example is being used as a pre-treatment. And at Chesapeake Mosquito Control Commission, we have 3 separate districts. I tried to outline each of the districts here. So in black in the top right corner is our Greenbrier district. In green at the bottom is our Southern district. And in yellow is our Deep Creek district. And then all of the red areas inside each of the districts indicate areas that were blocked in 2019. And these are the areas we based our larval surveillance on. And then we tried to focus on the bigger areas and areas that are easy for us to access and to be able to check weekly. So here's a map of all the sites we picked for our larval surveillance, and you can see most of them line up with the bigger areas that were on the previous map. And then we try to update our sites every year since the environment's always changing, and sometimes because of inventory reasons, some sites might get skipped a year. So here's a route list that Catherine had made up to help us organize our sites and to make sure we visit a group of sites that are close together so we're not driving all over the city in one day. And the list is set up similar to our summer trapping schedule. So we have between 4 to 6 sites per route. Deep Creek has a total of 16 sites. Greenbrier has 15 sites, and Southern has 17 sites that we check. So we have a total of 48 sites. And we try to hit 2 routes every day, 1 in the morning and then 1 in the afternoon, with Fridays only having 1 in case we missed a route earlier in the week. But sometimes it's not possible with other things we have going on, like with the holidays and meetings. So realistically, our goal is to get to every site within at least 2 weeks. So we are still using Survey 123 to collect our data. The data contained in the app allow us to better communicate with the field crew so that they can properly treat an area. The app is really easy and convenient to use while we're out in the field. We conduct our surveys all winter long and then again after the areas have been treated. And then we can utilize this information with our adult trap counts during the summer. So in the Survey 123 app, we enter in all the information you see here on the right. We have the district, site ID, type of habitat, the habitat condition, the square footage, water temp, along with the larval density and the percentage of each instar that we have found. But now when we input all the data into the app, it will automatically get updated to an interactive map that we can check when we get back to the lab. And the map has clickable dots that can show us the site ID and what we found there. So here's an example of the map. You can click on any of the red dots and a screen will pop up where you can see the blocking site ID number. And in this example shows DC-6A, which is in our Deep Creek section of the city, and its site number is 6A. And we checked a root ball on December 2nd of 2020. That was 10 square feet, and the water temp was 48 degrees. If you were to scroll down in that box, you would see the larval density and what instars we found that day. And this will update every time we go back to the site. And you may have noticed that some of the dots on the map are smaller than others. The smaller dots are areas that we have not checked yet this winter. And this was another update to our map. So it makes it easy for us to see where we need to go next and to make sure that we are visiting all of our sites. The map also has a list feature, and the list will pop up at the bottom of the map and have all the sites listed with all the details of what we saw. Another thing we do at Chesapeake is monitor the weather. We check the temperature and rainfall daily. We have a weather station and a rain gauge at our Deep Creek and southern locations. We also check Norfolk's weather using the National Weather Service. You can see we had a lot of rain in November. Deep Creek had 8.61 inches and Norfolk had 7.64 inches. The December rainfall was not as much, with 4.37 inches in Deep Creek and 4.39 inches in Norfolk. All of that rain in November gave us a lot of woodland pools to check for larvae. It was also a good indicator of what areas can fill up with water and what should be pre-treated. The rainfall for each area that we checked was different. Southern Chesapeake had over half an inch more rain than Deep Creek in November, with 9.29 inches. They had 3.92 inches of rain in December. Keeping track of the weather helps us with predicting how heavy our mosquito traps will be all summer long. We know that a week and a half to 2 weeks after heavy rainfall, we'll get a lot of adult mosquitoes in our traps. So on the left is a picture of our rain gauge that we use, and we have it away from all of the buildings to make sure we get an accurate indication of how much it has rained. On the right is a picture of a thermometer, and we have that in the front office, and it tracks indoor and outdoor temperature and can hold up to 6 days at a time. Even after a long weekend, we can come back and still be able to check the temperature. And then these are just some pictures of the types of environments we check for our routine sites. And the one in the top middle is a new root ball that we found while setting traps this summer because the tree had fallen after a big rainstorm. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you, Carla. Yeah, so it looks like Betsy had a question she typed in. I don't know if she wants to chime in and ask, but if anyone else has any questions, they can turn on their mics and ask. So I guess Betsy had asked, so are these woodland pools, and so are these woodland pools, and are you concerned about other animals? And she asked this early on in the presentation.
We're not really concerned with other animals. We do run into deer, and we haven't had any snakes, thankfully, but we're not too concerned with other animals. We don't go too far into the woods either, just because we have so many sites to check. We have to, or, oh, is she talking about the blocks?
I am not 100%. She's now asking, how about the predators of mosquitoes?
Oh, so like if we're out there and we find a woodland pool that has like fish or something else in it that will eat the mosquitoes, we typically don't treat that.
Okay. Are there any other questions out there? All right, well, thank you, Carla.
Thank you, Jay.
Our next presentation will be David Gaines from Virginia Department of Health. We had heard a presentation from him earlier, but this presentation will be on kissing bugs in Virginia. David, are you present with us?
Yes, I am.
Great. As soon as Charles gives you presentation rights and you share your screen, you can start, and I'll give you throughout your talk, I'll chime in and say 5 minutes, and then I'll chime in and say 1 minute to give you an idea of how much time you have left.
How many minutes do I have total?
It looks like 40 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. It looks like 20 minutes.
Okay, I'll talk fast.
You are the presenter now, Dr. Gaines. You can share your screen.
Okay. Let's see. I'm clicking on it. It's not sharing it. Oh, clicking on the wrong button. Okay. Waiting for it to come up. Any reason why it's taking its time?
You are sharing your screen, but you need to open up your PowerPoint now.
It is open. Oh, it's in PowerPoint mode. Okay.
There you go. There you go.
Okay.
All right. Good to go.
Okay. All right. Today I'm going to talk about. Oops. Excuse me. Trying to get this stuff out of the way here. Get some things interfering with my view. Chagas disease, which is caused by Trypanosoma cruzi, and kissing bugs, and the potential for Chagas disease transmission in Virginia. All right. Can everybody see my screen okay? I got some things in front of it on my screen. But
everything looks great on my side.
Okay. All right. Chagas disease is a parasitic disease caused by the protozoan parasite Trypanosoma cruzi, and this disease was first discovered by a Brazilian physician named Carlos Chagas back in 1909. This disease is also known as American trypanosomiasis. It only occurs in the Americas, and it is mainly transmitted to people through exposure to kissing bugs of several different species. But other modes of transmission also occur. All right, next slide. Trying to get the slide to advance here. Dang. Not sure how to make the slide advance. Okay, here we go. Most of the 40 kissing bug species found in the Americas feed mainly on wild animals, including mammals, birds, amphibians, and reptiles. These bugs tend to live in animal dens or near nests and feed on their animal hosts while the hosts are sleeping. There are several kissing bug species that may tend to live on or in human habitations and may habitually feed on the human residents, pets, or livestock at night while they are asleep. In South America, Central America, and Mexico, several different kissing bug species may live in the cracks and walls of adobe huts and or in the thatch roofs and walls of palm thatch huts that serve as homes for lower income, suburban, and rural residents. This picture shows the interior wall of an adobe home that has been stained by fecal material from kissing bugs. And as you can see, they have pulled a chunk of the adobe away from that crack area, and you can see two kissing bugs sitting on the inside of that chunk of adobe. That's the crack that they're nesting in. Once the lights are out and the human residents of this hut are asleep, the bugs emerge from their hiding places and move to a sleeping person or animal to take a blood meal. Trypanosoma cruzi is not transmitted directly to people or host animals through the infected bug's bite. Instead, it's transmitted to the bug bite victim when the feeding infected bug defecates to make room in its abdomen for its new blood meal. This contaminated fecal matter may then be transferred to the bite victim's fingers when the itchy bite site is scratched, and is then spread to the bite wound or to the bite victim's eyes, nose, or mouth when the sleeping victim scratches, rubs, or touches those areas. Infected kissing bugs that live on walls and ceilings of human homes may also contaminate uncooked food with their fecal matter. In South America, some kissing bug species live in fruit trees and feed on the blood of animals that sleep in those trees. And the infected bugs may subsequently contaminate the fruit with their infected fecal matter. And people that consume that unwashed fruit may become infected. Trypanosoma cruzi can also be transmitted to people in unscreened blood donations or organ transplants from infected donors. And T. cruzi may also be transmitted congenitally from an infected pregnant mother to her unborn child. There are only two kissing bug species found in Virginia. These include Triatoma sanguisuga and Triatoma lecticularia. Since 2013, I've been receiving kissing bugs from people around Virginia. And in a period from 2013 to 2014, all of the 12 kissing bugs collected in homes and buildings in Virginia and sent to VDH for identification have been Triatoma sanguisuga. Actually, that's since 2013 to present. A published study, Klotz et al., indicated that Triatoma lecticularia is associated with wood rats and squirrels, but can sometimes be found living in human residences. But there's not a lot of published research on this species, and there are few species records of them feeding on people. A blood meal study of 69 Triatoma sanguisuga bugs collected in Louisiana found that bugs mainly fed on the blood of tree frogs. About 33% of the tested bugs contained frog blood. But people accounted for 30.4% of the blood in tested bugs, followed by raccoons accounting for 17.4% of infected bugs, cows 8.7%, dogs 5.8%, squirrels 2.9%, and cats 1.4%, and wood rats 1.4%. Cats and wood rats seem to be about as popular. A different study in the southeastern U.S. indicated that the preferred hosts of Triatoma sanguisuga bugs included raccoons, armadillos, possums, frogs, wood rats, dogs, squirrels, and humans, but unfortunately no host species frequency values were provided in that study. Although Triatoma sanguisuga is known to feed on sleeping people in their homes and is the most commonly found kissing bug species in human residences in the eastern U.S., it does not appear to be as dangerous as some of the other kissing bug species. Unlike some of the South American species, Triatoma sanguisuga does not commonly defecate on its hosts while feeding, and generally waits to defecate until several minutes after it has finished feeding and has left its host. That's very polite of them. However, Triatoma sanguisuga feeding behavior has not been thoroughly studied, so there might be some regional differences in host preferences among bugs of this species and or in the way this bug behaves while feeding. Certainly more studies are needed. From 2013 to 2014, various Virginia citizens sent VDH, well, they came to VDH and then they came to me, 8 different kissing bugs that they had captured in their homes or buildings. All of these bugs were identified as Triatoma sanguisuga, and 3 of these bugs had been collected on or next to beds in bedrooms. In the late summer of 2014, I contacted the Chagas Disease Research Lab at Texas A&M University, and they offered to test these bugs by PCR for Trypanosoma cruzi. I sent them 7 of the 8 bugs. After their testing, 2 of these 7 bugs tested positive for Trypanosoma cruzi. And both of these infected bugs had been collected on or near beds in the bedrooms of homes that were located in forested areas or by woodlots in Virginia. Now, due to a lack of knowledge about the species of kissing bugs in the U.S., Chagas disease is rarely tested for in U.S. citizens and that have not traveled to the American tropics. Routine screening of donated blood for Trypanosoma cruzi antibodies has only been in effect in the U.S. since December of 2006. In a 60-year period from 1955 to 2015, only 28 locally acquired human Chagas infections were identified in the entire U.S. People infected with Trypanosoma cruzi that are asymptomatic or mostly asymptomatic may never know that they've been infected or what is causing their symptoms. The acute and chronic symptoms of Chagas disease may also be overlooked or mistaken by doctors for other patient illnesses. Chagas disease occurs in 2 phases of illness. The acute phase, which occurs during the first weeks or months of infection, patients may be completely asymptomatic or may just have 1 or more symptoms, such as fever, fatigue, body aches, headaches, a rash, a loss of appetite, diarrhea or vomiting, and the most distinctive symptom, Romagnon's sign. All of those other symptoms can be mistaken for a whole lot of different disease causes. Romagnon's sign is caused when infected fecal matter from a bug is accidentally rubbed into the bug bite victim's eye, causing inflammation of the eyelid and adjacent tissues. The symptoms in the acute phase include other signs of acute phase infections in the may include liver and or spleen enlargement, and young children may develop myocarditis or meningoencephalitis, and some, typically less than 5%, may die during the acute phase of infection. Immunocompromised adult patients may also suffer severe illness symptoms during the acute phase of infection. Now, during the chronic phase, only 20 to 30% of infected patients develop chronic symptoms, and these symptoms may not come on until months or years after their infection. They may suffer from cardiac complications such as an enlarged heart, altered heart rate or rhythm, heart failure, or cardiac arrest and sudden death, or may have gastrointestinal complications such as megaesophagus and megacolon. In 2017, a blood donation by a Missouri resident tested positive for Chagas disease and was confirmed by the CDC through additional serum testing. This person had no known exposure history, but had traveled to other states in the southeastern U.S. as well as to Southern California and had lived in 4 different houses in Missouri. In 2020, a blood donation by a Virginia resident tested positive for Chagas. This infection was confirmed at the CDC through additional serum testing. This person had no known exposure history or relevant travel history, but had lived and camped and played in forested areas of Virginia, suburbs in northern Virginia. Other potential sources of exposure have not yet been determined in this patient. The treatment of Chagas is as follows. One can do an antiparasitic treatment in the acute phase of infection, and the antiparasitic is benzonidazole, which kills the parasites. This treatment is not effective in the chronic phase of infection. Then there are symptomatic treatments. Various treatments can be used to alleviate the cardiac and gastrointestinal symptoms of Chagas in chronic phase infection, but these symptomatic treatments will not eliminate the infection. For blood donors with Chagas positive screening tests, the CDC Parasitic Diseases Branch in Atlanta will test and confirm serum samples from all positive blood donors. I've already had several blood donations tested this year. Serum samples should be submitted to the CDC through the DCLS, which is our state lab, which can complete the appropriate sample submission forms. And also, please inform me of any such events. Kissing bugs that are collected in bedrooms or homes, when this occurs, the CDC Parasitic Diseases Branch in Atlanta will test these kissing bugs for Trypanosoma cruzi if they are suspected of biting people, such as are found in a bed, bedroom, or other place where people sleep, and are identified as kissing bugs. In these events, bug specimens must be packaged in crust-proof mailers and sent to me at VDH for species identification before the CDC will accept them for testing. And that's all I have. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Gaines. We have a little over 5 minutes. If anyone has any questions, please turn on your mics and ask away. All right. Well, I guess if anyone has any questions, you can put in the chat function type away, and then if Dr. Gaines is looking, he can answer you there. Thank you again, Dr. Gaines.
Thanks.
So a little questionable on the next presentation. Janice, are you here and ready for your presentation?
It looks like it's ready to go. We'll see.
Great. If not, we can skip over to Kurt. But it sounds like you're present, and we'll see what's up. All right. So our next presentation is Janice Pulver from York County Mosquito Control. Your presentation will be field work and hunting. So I will say that again.
I've already made her presenter, so if she needs to be presenting on Betsy's device, she just let me know.
Okay. Yeah. So if
Yeah, I'm on Elizabeth Hodgson, so you have to make her presenter, which
10-4.
All right. So once you are given presenter rights and you share your screen, I will give you a I'll say 5 minutes and then 1 minute to tell you how much time you have left over.
Okay.
All right. It looks like you're ready to go.
Okay, cool. So, as Jay started, I am Janice Pulver, and I'll be talking about fieldwork and hunting. So we'll start out with the hunting rules and regulations. Every hunter 12 or older has to take a hunter education course, and that course lasts a lifetime. And then every hunter annually has to purchase licenses for what and how they're going to hunt. And for example, below on the left is my husband and I's licenses we purchased for this past season in, I guess, 2021. And every city, county, and state has different regulations. So when you buy these licenses, you also get tags. So if you kill something, for example, a turkey or deer, as the right shows, you have to tag it. So on mine, in the bottom left, you can see I tagged a deer, and on my husband's, the red numbers, he also tagged a couple deer. So you can't just kill whatever you want, however. wherever. There's like specific things you have to follow. I'll be talking about different seasons, specifically archery, muzzleloader, and firearms, and to just give you an idea of what this stuff might look like. So for archery, people usually use either a compound bow or a crossbow. They can also use recurve bows, but it's not nearly as common as these. And for firearms, people typically use shotguns. And then there's also a muzzleloader specific season. That's what this is. And it's also known as like a black powder gun. But you can also use archery equipment in a muzzleloader during general firearms. You just have to follow those rules for that season. So where to hunt and blaze orange. So where can I hunt? You can hunt your own property, public land where it's allowed, land with permission from the owner, and 200 yards away from a place of worship and or dwelling. And for blaze orange, it has to be a solid color, worn on the upper body, and visible 360 degrees. And in Virginia, all you have to wear is a hat, basically. And you can see me and my husband, even though my brim is like camo, it's still legal. It just has to be the cap, essentially. So, do I need to wear blaze orange? For turkey and archery season, no. For muzzleloader, it's to and from the stand. And for firearms, you have to wear blaze orange. This is my husband and his dog rabbit hunting. And the point of this is to show blaze orange is to make you visible to others. So you can see my husband in the foreground, but you can still see the other hunters in the background because they're wearing blaze orange. And you can also legally wear pink as well, like neon pink. So deer season, the legal time is a half hour before sunrise to a half hour after sunset. And your bag limit is 2 deer per day and no more than 3 antlered deer for the season. And antlerless deer are considered like buttonbucks, does, and bucks with shed antlers. In September and October is your archery seasons for the most part. But if you're worried about people in the woods with guns, that would be November, December, and January as far as deer season. And in January is also like small game, which people are still out hunting. There's also a turkey season, which is more so when we go back in trapping, and I have it later, but I think it's like April, March. I'll show that later. So what is that? You might come across this when you're out doing field work. So the first one is a block. So this is used for target practice or just charging a bow, a crossbow specifically, because you have to shoot a bow to discharge a crossbow. And on the right, it shows an arrow, which you have to use for a compound bow versus a bolt, which is used for a crossbow. And in the center is a field tip. So that's what you would use to shoot at this block or the ground if you have to discharge your bow that way. And on the right and left, those are broadheads. That's what you actually use to hunt. You might come across a spent shotgun shell and a wad. Usually you find a shotgun shell not next to the wad. So the wad is inside that shell, but when you shoot it, that goes out with the pellets. So it's usually further away somewhere in the direction they shot. You might come across clay pigeons. So this means someone was out skeet shooting like this shows. So it just flies out in the air, you shoot it, and it breaks to pieces if they actually shoot it. And so down below, the orange piece is what you might come across. And also, if I find this, it lets me know I'm downrange from someone who has been shooting. So deer biology and how to hunt. Most of these pictures came off of my trail cam. And for the tick people, I think this middle top picture is a tick on its shoulder. So fawns and female deer. Fawns are young male or female deer, and the fawns are born scentless. This is why the does usually leave them by themselves. And the doe is an older female deer. Her fawns and older daughters usually stick around with her to form a small herd. And the noise they make is called a bleat. The picture down below is a doe. And this little guy here is a fawn. And it's kind of a special fawn because it's a piebald deer, which means it has more of these white patches on its body. And on the right here is some deer scat. This is like a debated topic, but they're different from like a pile versus like a cylindrical form because of their diet. My husband will argue it's because a buck or a doe made them, but I don't know, you can research it. And on the right are doe tracks that you might find walking around doing field work. So male deer. A button buck is what I would consider, I guess, a teen male deer. They don't have any antlers yet, but you can still see the buttons on their heads where the antlers will grow in. And a buck is an older male deer, and they shut off their antlers early in the year. And up above this is an actual shed I found by a BMP I was looking at. And they grow in velvet in the spring. In this video, we'll show, well, that was sideways. But this deer, his antlers, you can see they're kind of a brown, and that's because it's in velvet and his antlers are still growing. And the noise they make is called a grunt. Down below are some buck tracks, and they look almost exactly like doe tracks, except they have these two little notches beneath like the main footprint. That's how you tell the difference. And bucks can have two kind of categorized antlers, I guess. So this is like a typical antler rack, and it's like nice and symmetrical. And they can also be non-typical. See how they're kind of like wonky looking? And their antlers vary for several factors. It can be because of their age, nutrition, genetics, and also accidents can like affect how many points their antlers are. So this guy, you can see the left is like nice and normal looking, but the right, there's like nothing there. So that might be because he got in an accident. He got in a fight with another buck and just fell off or something. So now instead of maybe a 6-pointer, he's a 3. Oh, these are some bucks that were out in my yard last year. So in the fall, have you ever felt like there's a higher number of car accidents involving deer? Your workers who hunt are taking off more frequently, and bucks look like they didn't skip neck day at the gym. This is all probably because of the rut. So what is the rut? It's the deer breeding season in November. The hormones in the bucks increase, which also causes their neck to swell. And you can see this in this picture here. The buck on the left has a much larger looking neck than the one on the right. And the increase in car crashes is likely caused by bucks trying to get to does or does trying to run away from them. In this picture, you can see kind of the buck lurking in the background, or down below, there's does running away from him. And then bucks make rubs on saplings to mark their territory. And this buck right here is checking out a rub right there. And the rut is the best time to hunt because bucks become less cautious. You're more likely to come across them when you're out in the woods during the day. So bucks also make scrape during this time, and it's essentially, there's one right there. They scrape out the ground to expose it, and they create something like this. And it's how they communicate with other deer in the area. You can see their tracks in it too. And like I said before, they also make rubs. So here are some more examples of that. So where and when to choose to hunt. You want to find an area with a high amount of deer sign, and you also want to find a choke point in the local geography. This basically funnels the deer to you, so you're more likely to come across them. And the best times to hunt are probably early morning or late afternoons. So if you come across a hunter hunting within these times, they're more likely to be there 30 minutes before legal time starts in the stand, and they usually leave like at or a little after legal time in the afternoon. And when you actually find the place you want to hunt, what you generally do is you listen. You listen for the deer crunching on the leaves walking around you. Then you might try to get the visual. So if you're worried about hunters being in the woods with you, you might want to take a little initiative and like make noise so you don't sound like a deer. And the easiest way to do that is to just talk, because then they immediately know you're not a deer. And you can also wear bright colors, so they might be able to hear you, but they might not know like exactly where you are. So if you wear a bright color, they can hear you and then see you. And on the right is some examples of deer sign. On this hill here is a nice deer trail. You can see down below there's a ton of tracks in this hill. And then there's a ditch I was walking, and there was a lot of deer sign just in this specific part, and that's because there's a food source there. There's acorns. So how to hunt deer. You can do stand hunting. So you just sit in a tree for hours until something comes your way. And you can do this from a wooden stand, a lock-on, or a metal stand. So in this middle picture, the lock-on would be the top one and the metal down below. Or you can also hunt from a climber. And you usually see climbers just out and about when you're like a deer box. I'm in a dog box. And to understand what climbing a tree even looks like, this is what it looks like. And when you do this, you also take bark off the side of the tree. And that's how you can tell if someone's been there before. And you can also hunt from a blind, which is basically a pop-up camo tent, or sitting on the ground. You can also run dogs. So if you release dogs into the woods, they're going to bark and scare the deer. And then the hunter's on the other side of that waiting for the deer to come by them, hopefully. As far as clothing, most people wear camo, but it's kind of a personal choice. So now that we kind of know what deer sign is and like where to hunt for them, you can probably be more aware of it when you're out in the field. So I was walking this ditch and I was looking around, I saw a deer trap, like, this might be a nice place to hunt. And I look around, oh, someone else already had that idea. There's a stand in the street. So illegal hunting, you might come across this when you're out in the woods. I could tell because this tree looked like it's been climbed many times before. And also there's a little hook at the top of the tree where they would place their bow. And this tree on the right had 3 nails in it with reflective tape on it. So when they're walking to it at night, they have a flashlight. If they reflect out into the woods, it'll reflect back at them so they can see where the tree is they're trying to get to. So other things you might come across. Oh, there's about to be deer body parts, so look away if you don't want to see it. So if you find a gut pile like this and a pile of blood, a deer was field dressed there, which means they remove the guts from the deer. And they do that so the meat won't rot, and that's just easier to drag. And then you might find a deer with its head cut off, which we have before at work. So someone probably just took the head for its antlers. And then you might also come across a deer that's specific parts of the deer have been taken besides the antlers, and they've probably taken the backstrap and the tenderloins, which is some of the better pieces of meat from a deer. So when I say backstrap on the left, that's where they would be coming off of, and the tenderloins would be right here on the right picture. And that deer was probably poached. But if you're a responsible deer hunter, these down below, these are the pieces of meat you would take off. So it would also include like the hindquarters, the shoulders, maybe the heart too. So take home points. I personally don't think you have to worry about being shot during archery season. It is a lot more difficult to shoot, and you have a shorter range hunting with a bow. And if you're worried about guns in the woods, these are the different seasons, which I've talked about. Deer, small game's usually in January, and turkey is April and May. And then a hunter does not want to be seen. You're up in a tree in camo. But so if you're worried about it, do your part to be seen or known about. And then hopefully after this, you'll be able to distinguish some illegal hunting activity from like legal. And if you do catch it, you can notify the local conservation officer or the landowner. Oh, so I had to cut my turkeys out talking about this, but here they are. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Janice. We have about 1.5 minutes if anyone has any questions. All right, well, thank you. As usual, for the next couple minutes, if you wanted to type in a question off to the side, go for it. Karen had made an announcement in the chat function basically saying that her and Charles are going to be working together to get the presentations posted online. Usually that's a PDF version of them. I know Charles and Tim are talking about getting the presentations, the actual recording of these presentations available, but that'll be an idea to let you know about later. So don't go anywhere. We have one last talk, actually maybe two because of Adapco, but at this moment, Kurt Vandock from there would like to give a couple words. He is a sustaining member.
Hi, thanks, Jay. Great. Jay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can, yes.
Wonderful. I'm not going to try to share a PowerPoint. There's been a lot of those this morning, and I understand there's some difficulties. So I'd just like to start by speaking to everyone directly and thanking them so much for their business and support last year. It was a very trying time, and we're grateful for customers who do so much to protect the public health and all the citizens and residents in your districts. I wanted to give a couple quick updates about Bayer products and solutions. last year we made a change in our distribution in February, and Target Specialty Products started carrying the full line of Bayer solutions. This will continue in 2021 with Target carrying all of the Bayer solutions, Delta Guard, Aquareslin, Permanone, and Imperium. Steve Molnar, who has been on, is your rep. And if you have any questions about pricing, feel free to reach out to him, and he'll get that for you right away. One area I wanted to touch on before I open it up to questions is our willingness to work with people throughout the year in setting up social distancing, acceptable field trials. The one thing that we continued to do at Bayer last year during the COVID pandemic was support field trials. Nature Fieldwork allows for responsible social distancing, and we ensure that negative COVID tests are received before any travel occurs. We're not traveling currently because of the extremely high percent positive of tests that's occurring. We do look forward to, after the vaccine rollout, getting back with y'all in the field and doing some field assessments to really look at product efficacy. Certainly it's one thing to evaluate resistance in bottle bioassays, but we all know that the products that we use for adult deciding are non-residual in nature. So relying on a residual bioassay only tells part of the story. We have some resources that talk about this at our website. Please feel free to visit that. And then the last item I just wanted to touch on briefly was an emerging issue that I think everyone's aware of, both with an EPA announcement as well as AMCA sending out communication. And that's around the PFAS contamination that was noted in some adulticides for mosquito control. I just want to comment briefly that Bayer is aware of the EPA's announcement, and currently, to date, Bayer is not aware of any PFAS contamination in any of our public health adulticides. We're working very carefully as this is an emerging, ongoing situation. We've reached out, as per EPA guidance, to our suppliers of containers to ensure that we're tracking this carefully. But as I said, as of right now, we're not aware of any contamination. We'll have a formal press release on this coming out, but I do know that this is an issue that I've been contacted about by a lot of our customers. So at this point in time, I'd love to take any questions with the remaining few minutes or moments that I have left about our solutions, field trials, or any other items that you may have. All right, well, my email address is kurt.vandock@bayer.com, and you can just shoot me an email if you didn't want to ask it here. Thank you, everyone, once again, and I wish everyone a successful and safe 2021.
Thank you very much, Kurt. Before everyone goes, I'm just going to make some announcements regarding tomorrow. But I guess before I do, Charles, are you ready to go with something from Ted or no?
Yes, I can pull that up.
Okay, so we'll have a quick presentation from Adapco, Ted Bean, our sustaining member from Adapco. And then after that, I'll give some announcements regarding tomorrow and everything. And we'll try to take a group photo. So after the presentation from Ted, we'll have everyone turn their cameras on, and we'll try to have a group photo situation. So this is the first time. If it goes poorly, we might try it again tomorrow. But hopefully we don't have to, and it will go great. So Charles, it's all you.
Greetings from Adapco. I'm Ted Bean, a technical sales rep that covers the Northeast United States and for the last 16 years. And what I'd like to do in the next 5 minutes is just go through a quick overview update of what's new at Adapco and the product offerings that we have. First, I'd like to introduce a couple young ladies that have helped me a lot in the last year. They are our new technical development team with Adapco. And I'm going to pass the baton over to Casey and let her and Emily explain what they do and how they can help you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Casey.
Hi, everyone. My name is Emily.
And Emily and I together make up the technical development team at Adapco. This is a relatively new addition to Adapco, but it's part of our mission to support the mosquito control industry the best we can. We are here to add value to you guys as best we can in any way we can. So that providing laboratory field evaluations, hosting educational events, which Emily is going to talk a little bit more about. And we specialize in different products across Adapco's portfolio, but at the end of the day, we are here to help.
Okay, so in 2020, we actually had 3 virtual educational events in each region. So we had an East, a West, and a Central. We offered a total of 546 CEU recipients across 28 different states. And this is something that we're going to continue to focus on in the future and continue to do in years to come, whether it be virtual or hopefully in person again.
To go over the adulticide and larvicide portfolio from Adapco. On the left, you see the adulticides that we offer. New one on that list is Fipronil EW, which is a lower odor allophine formulation, and customers have taken to it fairly well. It smells if you open the jug, it smells like latex paint. The reason for that is that we are experiencing a good bit of resistance to the synthetic pyrethroid chemistry in general throughout the Northeast U.S. as well as other areas. So that makes it a little more palatable to use the OP or the Fipronil formulation. You can see the other formulations that we offer and products and the larvicides on the right-hand side. One of my favorites is Vectomax. Offers a lot of good attributes. OMRI certified, resistance management, has BTI and asparagus in it, and good residual as well. The latest and upcoming in 2021, we've got quite a few happy customers with the walls. They're employing the walls treatment to combat container mosquitoes. In urban environments, Bergen County, New Jersey, has used this approach a good bit in 2020, and I'm very pleased with it. They've done some studies that they'll probably be presenting on later. Prince William County, Virginia, and Mercer County, New Jersey have also done a good bit of work with the walls treatments, and they're all very, very pleased with the results. The other thing is the fall application of Vectolex FG for control for turbines. Norfolk, Massachusetts has applied this approach in the last couple of years. MMCD in Minnesota has been doing it for about 10 years, and they're very happy to share their results. They've done a lot of very intensive studies on perturbance control using this approach. Chesapeake, Virginia was wanting to do it in 2020, in the fall of 2020, but we're unable to because of COVID, but they're looking forward to doing that in 2021. Larvicide application equipment. We've got the Mariama, both granular and liquid backpacks, and the A1 Super Duty with the Micronair. It's very important to have the Micronair AU5000 nozzles on there for the walls treatments to get the swath width and droplet size that you desire. Adulticide equipment. We have pretty much a full line of foggers for truck mounted and ATV. The one that's been fairly popular for various is the lithium-ion electric backpack, the Pioneer Eco backpack that can be used for either ULV or barrier treatments. Barrier applications, of course, you have the Mariama and the Monitor 5 is a new device that Adapco has come up with it in the last year. And it's very nice, very user-friendly. It has a moving map in the truck that shows you where you sprayed, where you haven't sprayed. Lays a breadcrumb to show you exactly what's going on in that regard. Also has sites of interest. No spray zones can be incorporated to show you where you need to shut off the fogger and turn it back on and that sort of thing. Very easy to operate, very user friendly. Permaseeds is a new offering from Adapco. Came out, I think, about June of 2020. Basically a permethrin formulation that's either 3030, 3166 that would need to be diluted. We have a special Adapco device, the Cistrate system, that automatically dilutes to whatever ratio you want. Permaseeds 315 and 44, of course, would be ready to use products. Some of these come in a UC formulation that can be mixed with either water or oil. Thank you for your business over the past year, and I look forward to seeing all of you in this coming year as we get over this pandemic and can get back together again and talk about mosquito control.
Right. Thank you, Adapco and Ted Bean. As I'm going over some announcements for the end of the day, if everyone can turn their cameras on, that would be great, and then we'll take a group photo. So, recertification. Make sure if you want recertification, you are filling out the one sheet for each person, and then when it comes to the roster, everybody is signing that roster, filling it out for each day. So every day there will be a roster associated with it. And then tomorrow we start at 8:30 to 12:30, just like today. And there will be a business meeting afterwards from 12:30 to 1:30. And so yeah, I think that's why if people don't have cameras, that you just can't be in the group photo. Sorry. For those of you that have an entire group, you're even more important because you're representing so many more people. So let's get those cameras on. We got 79 of you out there, and I only see like 30. I say 30. It's probably less than that. And camera? Is it?
Camera don't work. Should I take the masking tape off of my camera lens?
That would be preferable, Randy.
I know we're ripping down now.
There it looks. Oh, is that Chewy?
Chewy.
Well, I guess who's taking this photo? Janice, are you out there, or I see Charles's mouth moving, but no words coming out.
You just have to.
That's a bonus.
Screen it. So I'm just gonna take a screenshot of the whole page. So
okay.
So if this is everyone, say hi. Jeez. Okay. All right. It's good to see you guys. Thanks for joining today. Hopefully you can also join tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have Tim Dugas presiding and then Betsy Hodson presiding. So thank you all. Any last words, Jay, Tim?
Thank you.
I think I'm good.
Thank you all. See you tomorrow.
Adios.